Chapter 65-79. Luchuan left for only 2 days. Even if he is fast, it is impossible for him to come back now. It is impossible to count on him, Guan, he said slowly. Then are we just going to watch them be arrogant like this? Yin Xiaoman's eyes were full of jealousy and hatred. It has only been half a day, and the number of points they have obtained is already very amazing. If we let it continue, it will be too difficult for us to surpass them in a few days. Don't be impatient. In my opinion, even if they came prepared, the number of elixirs can't be too many. Guani looked certain. It won't be long before their elixirs are sold out. This plan will naturally not be able to continue. Hearing this, the angry Yun Xiaoman regained some rationality. She nodded slightly and said, "You are right. This is only temporary. You see, Gong Jun has already said that the number of elixirs in his hands is not many." Guan Yi pointed to the distance. In order to attract business, Gong Jun's voice was also very loud, so even if they were far away, they could still hear it clearly. Yun Xiaoman breathed a sigh of relief. I thought they would be well prepared. Now it seems that it is not so exaggerated. At the same time, Xiaobai also asked, "Master, the elixirs brought by Gong Jun seem to be almost sold out." Di Beichen had just killed a monster, took out the demon crystal, and put it into his bag. He glanced at Gong Jun and smiled. With this guy's character, he must have brought all the elixirs he can hear, knowing that he can make a lot of money here. No way. Xiaobai was slightly stunned. Is the Fairy Treasure Pavilion not doing business? Now most of the cultivators are in the demon slaughtering mountain range. There are very few cultivators who buy elixirs in Shiyun City. What's more, after doing business in the demon slaughtering mountain range, everyone is very familiar with Gong Jun. They know that the things in the Fairy Treasure Pavilion are good. When they go back, the business of the Fairy Treasure Pavilion may be better. Xiaohei also widened her eyes. Is it possible that Gong Jun is doing this to promote the reputation of the Fairy Treasure Pavilion? Of course. The corners of Di Beichen's lips curled up into a light smile, like a spring breeze. His handsome face suddenly became even more handsome and bright. Don't tell me you still don't know the effects of the pills refined by Hong Zhuang? Xiaohei and Xiaobai looked at each other. After listening to the male host's explanation, they realized that Gong Jun was really a wolf in sheep's clothing. This seemed to be an extremely simple method, but no one would have thought that he would design so many things into it. He had clearly taken advantage of so many cultivators, yet he was still able to make these people remember him. Wasn't this too frightening? The next day, almost everyone thought that Gong Jun's medicinal pills had been sold out, but they were surprised to find that he continued to set up his stall like yesterday. Don't miss it. There's only one medicinal pill in the demon slaughtering mountain range. The medicinal effect is better than ordinary medicinal pills. You'll know once you buy it. Gong Jun's face was full of smiles, laughing happily like a fox. This was because this place was the most suitable place for cultivators to hunt monsters. Almost every day, many cultivators would enter this place. Therefore, even though many cultivators had already bought it yesterday, there were still cultivators continuing to buy it today. Yin Xiaoman was dumbfounded. Didn't his medicinal pills sell out yesterday? Chapter 65-80. Shiyun City, Immortal Treasure Pavilion. Several attendants looked at the almost empty counter in their shop, and their faces were full of helplessness. You said that the shopkeeper went to participate in the demon slaughter competition and took away almost all the medicinal pills that he could take away, leaving only these few things. How are we going to do business? The shopkeeper said that he went to the demon slaughter competition to do business, so if we sell out all the things in the counter, we can go back and rest and wait for him to come back and open the shop. Our business has been getting better recently, so won't we be suppressed by the 1,000 Treasure Pavilion again? Don't think so much. Since the shopkeeper said so, we'll just do it. On the third day, when everyone saw Gong Jun take out the medicinal pills to sell as usual, they understood that this guy said that there were not enough medicinal pills was a lie. What not enough medicinal pills? It's just a trick to fool everyone to buy medicinal pills. Just from this fatty's wretched smile, they can be sure that the amount of medicinal pills in his hands must be very shocking. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at the shameless Gong Jun and couldn't help but chuckle. In just 3 days, Gong Jun has been crowned as a profiteer by everyone, but he doesn't care at all. Madam, the most taboo thing to do business is to be thin-skinned. If you're thin-skinned, you can't do business and you can't make money. I don't have any good points. My biggest advantage is that I'm thick-skinned, Gong Jun said with a smile. I'm not praising you, okay? Bailey Hongzhuang secretly shook her head. This guy's skin is really not comparable to ordinary people. At least she can't reach it. However, she also has to say that this is indeed a good point for Gong Jun. Brother, we can't continue like this. Otherwise, our points will definitely not be comparable to Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. Yin Xiaoman at this moment no longer has any wishful thinking. She can clearly see that this fatty's medicinal pills inventory is extremely shocking. If this continues, the gap between them will be pulled wider and wider. Even if they can't get into the top 10, she doesn't want to see these three guys get it. Guan Yi nodded slightly, his eyes turning sinister. The enmity between the two parties had already been formed, and he could not let the other party continue to be so complacent. Otherwise, they would be the unlucky ones in the end. His gaze swept across Gong Jun and Bailey Hongzhuang, and a thought gradually formed in his mind. Their method is indeed not bad, but they forgot that they have a fatal flaw. Hearing this, Yin Xiaoman understood that Guan Yi already had an idea. She couldn't help but ask, Brother Yi, what fatal flaws do they have? There are too few of them. Guan Yi's lips curled up, revealing a hint of viciousness. Yin Xiaoman's eyes lit up. You're right. Guan Yi whispered a few words into Yin Xiaoman's ear. The two of them looked at each other and nodded. Immediately, they began to move. That Gong Jun deliberately raised the price so high in order to take advantage of the situation. We worked so hard to obtain the points, so why should he earn them? These are the points that we risked our lives for, but he didn't do anything. When the time comes, if he becomes the first place, wouldn't it be a joke? Don't you feel guilty? Chapter 65-81. Whispers of discussion gradually spread out in the crowd. The eyes of the cultivators, who originally did not have any thoughts of snatching the treasures, lit up after hearing this. Faced with Gong Jun's wealth and points, it was impossible for them not to be envious. As long as they worked together, it would be very difficult to snatch the points away from the other party if they were not willing to do so. However, once they snatched the cultivation resources and pills, it would be very helpful to them. As cultivators in Xi'an City, most people could not turn a blind eye to these cultivation resources. Almost in a short time, the news spread. More than 10 cultivators expressed that this method was feasible. There are only 3 of them, and they are all in the glorious Sun Realm. As long as we work together, they are definitely no match for us. When the time comes, no matter what this guy has, we'll split it equally. What do you think? No problem. Everyone nodded in agreement. At this moment, Guan Yi said, we have to think of a way to snatch the points. As long as we can get these points, even if we split them equally, our points will be much higher than the others. As soon as he said this, everyone's eyes lit up. Who would not be envious of these points? Previously, so many cultivators had bought the pills. Even if it was divided into more than 10 portions, the amount would still be very shocking. Guan Yi, you really came up with a good idea. This way, we will surpass many cultivators. Then let's not talk so much. Let's move first. Don't let them get away. Guan Yi sneered. Gong Jun was happily doing business when he suddenly saw a group of people walking toward him aggressively. His smiling face immediately changed. Almost in an instant, Gong Jun put away all the white porcelain bottles and quickly rushed to Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichun. Boss, madam, it seems like someone is coming to cause trouble for me. Hearing this voice, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichun stopped what they were doing and turned their heads to look ahead. Sure enough, a group of people rushed toward Gong Jun aggressively. Most importantly, they saw 2 familiar figures among them. I didn't expect Guan Yi and Yin Xiaoman to be here as well. These 2 guys hid so well that I didn't even notice them. Bailey Hongzhuang's phoenix eyes narrowed. When she first heard that scream, she felt it was very familiar. Now that she thought about it, it should be Yin Xiaoman. However, there were simply too many cultivators in the vicinity, and the other party was rather far away, so they did not notice it. It seems that this idea was also from the two of them. Di Beichen's eyes flashed with a hint of coldness. Gong Jun's expression turned ugly. These two fellows are too insidious. They can't compete with me in business, so they want to use this method to harm me. It's too abominable. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang chuckled. Isn't it because you're too good at snatching business? These 3 days, I'm afraid they've been angered by you. Madam, now is not the time to laugh at me. Should we hurry and run? Gong Jun's face was nervous. He looked like he couldn't wait to rush out now. Chapter 65-82. Listening to Bailey Hongzhuang's words, Gong Jun felt a burst of anxiety, his face revealing a bit of sullenness. Madam, I spent 3 days of hard work to obtain these points. If I were to give them away just like that, then wouldn't my 3 days of hard work have been in vain? No, this is absolutely not possible. I, Gong Jun, have lived for so many years, and I have never done a losing transaction. Gong Jun's face was full of indignation. That gloomy look was as if someone wanted to cut off his flesh. Seeing this, Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but chuckle. This guy actually cared about this the most at this time. His thinking was indeed different from ordinary people. When Guan Yi and Yun Xiaoman brought more than 10 cultivators and aggressively rushed in front of Bailey Hongzhuang and the other two, their faces revealed a trace of pride. Di Beichun, as long as you hand over the dawn and points, we will spare your lives today. How about it? Guan Yi's gaze was cold as he looked at the two of them. Until now, he still clearly remembered the scene when the two of them had threatened them. Now the tables had turned. Not long after, the situation had reversed. Guan Yi, you want to first make us willingly hand over the points, then kill us? Bailey Hongzhuang's lips slightly raised. After dealing with you a few times, what kind of person you are, we can say that we are very clear about it. Now that you're saying these sanctimonious words, let me ask you, do you believe it yourself? Her clear voice was full of ridicule. Bailey Hongzhuang bluntly exposed his disguise, saying his true thoughts. Guan Yi did not expect Bailey Hongzhuang to see through it so clearly, almost without any consideration. I'm kindly giving you a chance. If you insist, then I can't do anything about it. Guan Yi said coldly. Your family really likes to use these kind of insidious methods, what? The loss you suffered at the beginning was not enough. Now you want to try again? Guan Yi's face instantly turned cold. Thinking back to how they had suffered defeat in front of these three fellows, he felt that it was really humiliating. Bailey Hongzhuang, don't be too complacent. Yun Xiaoman cursed. If you hadn't poisoned us, would you have been so arrogant? Your ability to play the blame game is really admirable. I don't know who's the one who didn't play his part in doing business. Bullying customers and not allowing customers to retaliate? Bailey Hongzhuang sneered. It's just a Wanbao pavilion. Those who don't know would think that your family is the city lord's mansion. Her clear voice was pleasing to the ear, but every word and sentence was like a gem, tit for tat. When everyone heard this, how could they not understand what was going on? It's not like the Wanbao Pavilion doesn't bully their customers. I've heard of it before, but I didn't expect to get into big trouble this time. Now, there's a good show to watch. Guan Yi has been watching Gong Jun wantonly amass wealth these past few days. I'm afraid he already can't stand it anymore. It's not easy to endure until today to make a move. Gong Jun's actions are really too ostentatious. There are only 3 people in total, yet they still make such a big fuss. It's hard to avoid being attacked by a group of people. Everyone sighed. This was obviously a dispute between the Wanbao Pavilion and the Xianbao Pavilion. No matter who won, it was a good show for them. Chapter 65-83. Looking at Yun Xiaoman's rapidly changing face, Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes also showed a trace of playfulness. Her gaze swept across the people in front of her as she pondered the current situation in her heart. Gong Jun saw this and couldn't help but look at Di Beichun, saying, Boss, are we not going to take the opportunity to run? They have already surrounded us. Unless we kill our way out, it's useless even if you want to run now. Hearing this, Gong Jun was stunned. In such a situation, besides this method, there was really no other way. Do we really have to hand over these points? Gong Jun's face fell. Then, as if he was going to throw caution to the wind, If we're destined to hand over these points, then I'd rather hand it over to others than to let Guan Yi and them take advantage of us. Guan Yi sneered. Now you don't have a choice. That's not necessarily true, Di Beichun said lightly. What are we waiting for? Do it, Guan Yi ordered. His eyes became vicious. Let's do it, whether we can get the points or not. Even if we can snatch the elixir, it's still not bad. Seeing this, everyone no longer hesitated and immediately rushed towards Bailey Hongzhuang and the other two. Gong Jun subconsciously hid behind Bailey Hongzhuang and the other two. In terms of fighting strength, he was no match for them. Boss, I'll go find help. At this moment, Gong Jun no longer had the slightest reluctance. The most important thing was everyone's lives. As for the points, they still had a chance to earn more. Looking at Gong Jun's flustered appearance, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichun looked at each other, a trace of a smile appearing between their brows. All right, don't make Gong Jun anxious, Di Beichun said with a faint smile. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly, patted the pale face of Gong Jun's shoulder, and said, Don't worry, your boss will take care of you. These points don't need to be handed over to others. Gong Jun originally only felt that it was an extremely critical moment, but at this moment, seeing his boss and madam so calm, for a moment his brain was also a mess. What was this situation? Why was this situation so different from what he had imagined? Not only him, after seeing this scene, Guan Yi and Yin Xiaoman were also somewhat confused. At this time, Bailey Hongzhuang and the other two were actually not anxious. Could it be that their brains were damaged? Brother, Yi, what's the situation? Yin Xiaoman was somewhat puzzled. Guan Yi frowned. He didn't know why, but looking at Di Beichun's calm appearance, he felt that there seemed to be something that they had missed. Boom! Vigorous essence energy exploded in this heaven and earth, and the surrounding air seemed to have become oppressive. Even when fighting with monsters, the aura was not bitingly cold to this extent. As more than a dozen cultivators were about to collectively attack, Di Beichun's hearty laughter rang out. How long are you planning to watch this show? As soon as these words came out, the surrounding crowd was dumbfounded for a moment, not understanding what was going on. Guan Yi and the others also looked around, secretly wondering if they had helpers. This is impossible. According to the information we have investigated, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichun came to Shiyun City together. There is no one else. Naturally, there is no helper here. Chapter 6584. Guan Yi's face was full of disbelief as he sneered. Things have already come to this point, and you're still trying to be mysterious. Do you think you can use this method to divert our attention and escape? Stop dreaming. It's impossible. As Guan Yi's voice fell, the cultivators who were originally observing the surroundings finally understood. It turned out that they wanted to create a diversion, but unfortunately, they had already been seen through. Gong Jun was also nervous. They had already been here for 3 days, and he had never seen Boss greet or interact with anyone. Now he actually said that there were helpers. Was this a joke? Just then, a playful voice sounded. Beichun, it's rare that you're in trouble. We're helping you, so you should at least give us some reward, right? As soon as the voice fell, everyone saw 2 figures quickly fly to Bailey Hongzhuang's side. Upon closer inspection, it was a man and a woman. Their eyes were filled with joyful smiles, as if they were very familiar friends. Di Beichun raised his eyebrows. As far as I know, the pills you have were all refined by Hongzhuang. Are you unhappy? Xiren's expression stiffened. He looked at him helplessly and said, I really can't negotiate with you. All right, you win. You've been losing for so many years. You should get used to it. Shang Guanying smiled and excitedly walked to Bailey Hongzhuang's side. Hongzhuang, we finally meet. I have no choice but to disobey master's orders. Bailey Hongzhuang sighed. In fact, they had already seen Xiren and Shang Guanying the day before yesterday. Everyone just exchanged glances, and no one took the initiative to communicate. After all, Master had asked them to train separately. They naturally had to do their best. Even if they saw them, they would treat them as ordinary people. But they never thought that such a situation would happen today. They could no longer continue to pretend that they didn't see anything. This situation, I believe that even if Master knew, he wouldn't blame us. Shangwan Ying smiled. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded. Her expression relaxed. Gong Jun looked at the two people who suddenly appeared, and a trace of joy appeared on his face. He didn't expect that there would really be helpers. Guani didn't expect such a situation. He thought to himself, are these two guys crazy? There was a huge disparity in the number of people on both sides. Even if they had two more people, they were still not a match at all. It's just two more people, and you're already so proud. This is just dragging two more people down with you. Yun Xiaoman sneered. And here I thought it was something amazing. Xiu Qiu's group of 5, wanting to gain a foothold in Shiyun City, is very difficult, and yet they are proud of it. How laughable! However, just as Yun Xiaoman's voice fell, another two figures appeared beside Bailey Hongzhuang. Sister, we're here. Bali Yanche and Linger were overjoyed. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. Yanche, you're here. These two guys are really haunting. Sisters spared their lives at that time. I didn't expect that they would come looking for trouble again. They really won't cry until they see the coffin. Bali Yanche narrowed his eyes. He had already heard about this matter before. He thought that it was over, but he didn't expect that these two guys would come up with a devious idea again. Chapter 65-85. Sure enough, they are brother and sister. Their appearance is really amazing. I didn't expect Bailey Hongzhuang to have a brother. I already noticed this man here 2 days ago, but I didn't see any interaction between them, so I thought they didn't know each other, but I didn't expect them to be so close. Didn't you guys just hear? This seems to be their master's order. So, there shouldn't be anyone else, right? Everyone's eyes fell on Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. Their expressions became very interesting. Previously, there were only 3 people, but in the blink of an eye, there were already 7 people. If there were other people, then the number would be much less than Guan Yi's group. The cultivators who were roped in by Guan Yi felt a little complicated when they saw this scene. They didn't think that the other party would have helpers. Moreover, these people seemed to have an extraordinary bearing. They acted so casually as if they didn't put them in their eyes at all. This feeling was very unpleasant. Guan Yi was also a bit stunned. He had never heard that Bailey Hongzhuang had relatives and friends here. Yin Xiaoman stared at by Li Yanche in a daze. Different from Di Beichen's shocking celestial being, this man revealed a trace of an evildoer's aura. This brother and sister pair, suddenly a trace of regret rose in her heart. If she knew it would be like this, she wouldn't have found trouble with Bailey Hongzhuang. You're the one who won't shed tears until you see the coffin. Guan Yi flew into a rage out of humiliation. The other side's helpers appearing one after another made him extremely unhappy. Even if you add them together, it's only 7 people. What's there to be arrogant about? The next moment, Guan Yi said to the people beside him, attack. 2 against 1. Do you think we can't beat them? It's good that these people delivered themselves to our door. Let's take their cultivation resources. Everyone's eyes suddenly lit up. Just Gong Jun alone was already rich enough, and they heard that Xiren's medicinal pills were all given by Bailey Hongzhuang, so the amount would not be small. If these 7 people were taken care of, everyone's storage rings would be rich. Do it. A cold glint flashed in Di Beichen's eyes as boundless killing intent swept out. When Xiren was the first to respond. It just so happens that I haven't exercised in a long time. The battle broke out in an instant. Almost at the same time, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others' auras changed. Unlike their previous carefree attitude, a strong murderous aura spread out from their bodies. Their sharp eyes were filled with murderous intent, forming a sharp contrast. Feeling the other party's terrifying killing intent, Guan Yi and the others couldn't help but feel a chill in their hearts. They felt that these people were even more ferocious than when they fought in front of the Myriad Treasure Pavilion. Ding, ding, ding. Bailey Hongzhuang clashed with the sharp sword in her hand. Her body was like an agile snake, and every move she made was fatal. His phoenix eyes were cold, and the power of darkness lingered around his body. It was a stark contrast with his white robes. The aura of darkness lingered, like a shadow, following the body. The man originally didn't take the slender Bailey Hongzhuang seriously, but after this exchange, he realized that this woman was not as weak as she looked. On the contrary, her strength was terrifyingly strong. Bang! Bailey Hongzhuang flew out and kicked the man's chest fiercely. Chapter 65-86. Save me quick. The man looked anxiously at the person next to him. The other man did not dare to delay and jumped between the two of them, blocking Bailey Hongzhuang's next attack. Faced with the man's appearance, Bailey Hongzhuang immediately diverted her attention and changed the direction of the sharp sword in her hand. The swift and fierce sword energy was like a treasured sword that had been born into the world. Its sharpness was so oppressive that one had no choice but to dodge. Otherwise, if the sword energy were to land on one's body would be sliced in half. Just as the man retreated to avoid the attack, Bailey Hongzhuang increased her speed and charged towards the first man. The man who had fallen to the ground heaved a sigh of relief with great difficulty. However, he suddenly sensed the terrifying aura appearing once again. The swift and fierce sword energy continued to grow larger at his eyes. Slash! The sound of a sword piercing a body rang out. Even though the sound was almost inaudible due to the fluctuations from the battle, the scene fell into the eyes of the surrounding crowd. Bailey Hongzhuang slowly pulled out her sharp sword. Her face was as cold as ice and did not contain a single trace of emotion. In the face of fresh blood, her indifference caused one's heart to tremble. This Bailey Hongzhuang has actually used a killing move right off the bat. This is basically a one-hit kill. She doesn't even give the other party a chance to speak. Actually, this is very normal. Didn't this fellow want Bailey Hongzhuang's life in the first place? She's giving him a taste of his own medicine. This is her reaping what she sowed. Even though the man had spoken calmly, the crowd could not help but feel apprehensive upon witnessing this scene. They did not know why, but when they had first seen Bailey Hongzhuang, they had thought that she was just an ordinary woman. However, after she had made her move, they suddenly realized that this woman seemed to have gone through a mountain of corpses and a sea of blood. Her indifference towards death was rather terrifying. When Bailey Hongzhuang turned around again, the man noticed a flash of murderous intent in her eyes and could not help but panic. Relying on their own cultivation to ascend to this place, everyone had to go through a series of battles to reach this place. His hands were also stained with a lot of blood, but for some reason, this woman gave him an indescribable sense of panic. Just when everyone's attention was on Bailey Hongzhuang, another exclamation was heard. The two men were unable to withstand Baichen's attacks and were defeated. They had only fought for a short period of time, but the two of them had already been defeated. This result was hard for everyone to believe. It can't be. Was this man really that strong? How many rounds has it been? I think Guan Yi is really in big trouble this time. It's not a loss for him to fall into the hands of these two people. Since these fellows have a master and their strength is so shocking, could they be people from the immortal domain who came out to train? Hearing the speculation of a cultivator, everyone's eyes lit up. This situation was indeed very likely. There were many cultivators in the immortal domain, and many of them were also in the Radiant Sun realm. Under such circumstances, many people would come out to train. If this was really the case, then they were really existences that they could not afford to offend. Guan Yi and Yun Xiaoman's faces turned pale. They had never thought of this situation. If this was really the case, then wouldn't it be terrible? Guan Yi, are you deliberately trying to harm us? Chapter 65-87. Young Master D, today I have eyes but failed to recognize MT Tai. Please let me go. The man quickly begged for mercy. I only attacked you because I believed Guan Yi's slanderous words. I have eyes but failed to recognize MT Tai. I won't dare to do it again. Even though begging in front of so many people is very shameful, but after fighting for a while, he clearly understood how big the gap between them is. Guan Yi saw this scene and couldn't help but become anxious. In any case, you are also an expert. This is just a fight, and you are begging for mercy. Aren't you too spineless? If you didn't say that their strength is not strong, why would I agree to your request? The man's face is sullen. At this moment, he is also very angry. If he knew the situation would be like this, no matter what, he wouldn't have agreed. Facing the man's begging for mercy, Di Baichen's eyes are indifferent. Unfortunately, I will not forgive you. As soon as his voice fell, Di Baichen's sword suddenly pierces out, not giving the other half a chance. Shock. Everyone looked at this scene in astonishment. They never thought that Di Baichen would be so decisive. The other side clearly apologized, but he didn't give them any chance. How can you do this? The other man quickly retreated a few steps, looking at Di Baichen in disbelief. They clearly begged for mercy, but Di Baichen still didn't give them any face. If it wasn't for the slightest bit of kindness, the two of them wouldn't have lived until now. However, after I let them go, they try to find trouble with me. Rather than that, it's better to kill them all. The cold and hard voice is full of majesty. It's obviously a very indifferent voice, but when it falls on everyone's heart, it's as heavy as 1,000 pounds. If a second ago they thought that Di Baichen's action was a bit excessive, now they have to admit that what he said is indeed reasonable. Kindness, for them, is the emotion that they should not have. Once they made a wrong decision, it would leave them with endless trouble. Guan Yi and Yun Xiaoman look at each other. Their hearts can't help but panic. The Di Baichen in front of them is even colder and more indifferent than before. His words are full of decisiveness. Baichen, you're right. The corners of Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curled up slightly. They didn't want to completely offend the Wanbao Pavilion, so as to avoid even greater trouble. But now, it seemed that he shouldn't have had such thoughts in the first place, because there were some people that you couldn't avoid even if you wanted to. Rather than being constantly wary of their secret schemes, it would be better to kill them directly to prevent future troubles. As for more troubles, he would deal with them as they came. He would just have to overcome them one by one. After hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's words, Di Baichen, who had a murderous look on his face, instantly melted. The gentleness on his face was even more frightening. With just a momentary change in expression, everyone understood what Di Baichen was thinking. When Xiren and the others were not weak in the slightest, but their speed was not as fast as Di Baichen's duo. Baichen, when you're done with your side, come help me. At this time, don't talk too much with them. Xiren called out. Hearing this, Di Baichen chuckled. Didn't you say before that you wanted to compete with me? Now you actually want my help? These two guys in front of me are definitely stronger than the two you dealt with. Their moves are really too sinister. Chapter 65-88. However, when the two of them joined forces, one of them would always sneak up on him while he was unprepared. This feeling of being tied down was extremely uncomfortable. All right, Di Baichen's expression was indifferent. His figure swept over to Xiren's side. It was clearly more than 10 people besieging 7 people. However, in such a huge battle circle, everyone felt that Bailey Hongzhuang and the others were not pressured at all. If there was an exception, it would be Gongjun's combat experience was obviously not as good as the others. Whether it was his combat skills or speed, he paled in comparison. However, although he was fat, he was quite agile in dodging. Following behind Di Baichen, he simply dodged left and right. If he could not handle it, he would rely on his boss to protect him. That completely destroyed the aura of the entire team. However, it also became the highlight of the entire scene. Boss, you guys are really amazing. Not only are you guys training, your friend Mian is also amazing. He can actually take on 2 people at once. Gongjun's face was full of amazement. Previously, his heart was about to jump out of his throat. He did not expect the real situation to be much better than he thought. If you have time in the future, you should train well too. Di Baichen looked at the agile fatty beside him. A trace of helplessness appeared in his eyes. Others may not have noticed it, but his observation was very obvious. Although Gongjun had been hiding all this time, he would take advantage of the opportunity to make a sneaky move, causing the other party to be flustered. In fact, his eyesight was also very good. Gongjun's face was bitter. Boss, I still prefer doing business. I'll leave this kind of fighting and killing to you. If I'm not around, what will you do? That won't happen. Gongjun shook his head. I will always follow you, boss. I will never leave. With Di Baichen's help, Xiren broke through the opponent's attack. After that, he looked at Di Baichen in surprise and said, Bei-chun, we haven't seen each other for a while, and you've already taken a follower? Yes. Seeing Di Bei-chun admit it, Ziren was even more surprised. As Di Bei-chun's good friend, he knew his character very well. Taking in underlings wasn't a big deal for others, but it was too strange for Di Bei-chun. You're actually taking in underlings? Did the sun rise from the west today? Without waiting for Di Bei-chun to speak, Gong Jun came forward and said, Brother, that's because I'm different. What's different about you? Ziren asked, puzzled. I'm different in every way. Gong Jun's face was calm. He raised his eyebrows and said proudly, Have you seen a fatty as cute as me? He really didn't. Ziren's lips twitched. Although he didn't understand the ins and outs of the whole thing, he could vaguely understand a little from Gong Jun's appearance. As the saying goes, evil women are afraid of pestering men. Bei-chun, you're actually afraid? Ziren sighed and shook his head. Depraved, really depraved. Public morals are deteriorating day by day. People's hearts are not what they used to be. Shut up. Shangwan Yingying glanced at Ziren. Can't you see that he has more points than you? When Ziren subconsciously glanced at Gong Jun's scoreboard. With his glance, he was also somewhat dumbfounded. He had seen Gong Jun do business with his own eyes and guessed that the number of points would not be small. But now it was a little shocking. Chapter 65, 89. I'm not praising you, okay? When Ziren rolled his eyes. This guy is really not modest at all. You guys don't seem to be discussing this. Bali Yinshe looked at Ziren and Gong Jun, suddenly talking about this, and couldn't help but remind them. Oh, right. When Ziren suddenly realized, just looking at you, I actually forgot about this important matter. The most important thing now is to get rid of these people. Following the fall of a few cultivators, the others couldn't help but feel flustered, because they found out that these people actually had the ability to fight one against two. Don't look at how it was just two people. Everyone was of the same cultivation level, so their strength was naturally not much different. Under this kind of situation, to be able to fight against two people, that's very impressive. If this continues, I'm afraid we'll all lose our lives here. One of them couldn't help but say. Previously, more than 10 people joined hands, but they still couldn't gain the upper hand. Now that 5 people had fallen, they were even more suppressed. Not long later, they would all have to give up their lives here. Let's run. Since begging for mercy didn't work, then they might as well take the opportunity to run. At least they could still keep their lives. Not knowing who said it first, everyone seemed to have made up their minds at the same time. Without hesitation, they ran in all directions. Today, they were tempted by wealth, and not because of blood feud. If they lost their lives here, it's really not worth it. When Guan Yi and Yun Xiaoman saw the others running away, their faces instantly turned pale. Brother Yi, let's run too. Yun Xiaoman pulled Guan Yi and quickly retreated. The others and Di Bei-chun didn't have a deep grudge against each other. But if the two of them didn't leave quickly, then they would definitely die today. Chase after them. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes narrowed. Since these guys came to seek death, then don't even think about running away. Today's matter was already high-profile enough. If they wanted to prevent future troubles, then they had to kill the chicken to warn the monkey. Let these people see the price of offending them clearly. If they wanted to cause trouble in the future, they would have to consider the consequences first. Everyone's figures flew away, but they did not blindly chase after Yun Xiaoman and her brother. Instead, they left them to Di Bei-chun and Bailey Hongzhuang. With their strength, dealing with these two people did not take much effort at all. Yun Xiaoman and her brother did not go far before they were blocked by Di Bei-chun. What? You still want to run? Guani looked at Di Bei-chun in front of him and Bailey Hongzhuang behind him. His expression turned ugly. What do you want to do? What do you think? Bailey Hongzhuang retorted. Of course, I'll kill you. Her voice was cold and emotionless. Bailey Hongzhuang held her sword and pointed it at Guani. After what happened back then, I had originally planned to just let it go. However, you all refused to budge. Since that's the case, we can only fight to the death. I don't understand what you mean. Guani pretended not to understand. This matter is because your table manners are too ugly. So many people have decided to take action. We are only 2 of them. Seeing Guani still being careless at this time, Bailey Hongzhuang found it funny. Our identity cards, weren't you the ones who did it? Guan Yi's expression changed slightly. He knew that the two of them had already seen through everything. Originally, he still had a trace of hope. But now, it seemed that everything was meaningless. Chapter 6590. Guan Yi wanted to stall for time and think of a plan, but he never thought that Di Beichun would attack him without saying a word, not giving him any chance to delay. Bailey Hongzhuang also attacked Yin Xiaoman. The other side's repeated attempts to trip her up had already angered her. Today, she must take their lives. Di Beichun, don't think that you're so great just because you're slightly stronger. A scholar who has been away for 3 days must be looked at with new eyes. You may not be able to kill me now. Guan Yi's face showed a trace of ruthlessness. He had been in seclusion for so long, and his strength had improved a little. Although he was defeated by Bailey Hongzhuang in front of the Thousand Treasures Pavilion, it was not a defeat where he could not fight back. Now that he was fighting to the death, he might be able to take the opponent's life. You think too much. Di Beichun's understatement directly blocked Guan Yi's clamor. The most important thing was that the other side did not put him in his eyes at all, which angered Guan Yi. He was not happy. This guy was nothing special, but he was so arrogant in front of him. You're courting death. Vigorous spirit energy exploded from Guan Yi's body. At this moment, the blue color proved that his attribute was water. Essence energy whizzed out, transforming into a massive wave that surged downwards. Di Beichun's figure flashed and stood on top of the wave. At the same time, the dark energy surged and turned into countless palms. Seeing this, Guan Yi's eyes showed a trace of panic. At first, he did not pay too much attention to it. Now that he saw it, he realized that Di Beichun was of the dark attribute. This guy must know that his dark attribute identity cannot be revealed. So when he fought before, he did not use his spirit energy in a large area. He only hid it between his fists and feet, making it difficult for others to detect. Guan Yi's mind flickered, and the huge waves in the sky turned into a wall, blocking the hand of darkness. Di Beichun's right hand suddenly stretched out, and the countless dark palms suddenly gathered together and fiercely slammed into the water wall. Bang! A loud sound spread out as seawater splashed everywhere, giving off splashing sounds. However, that hand held on to Guan Yi tightly, clamping him to the ground and unable to move. Guan Yi struggled madly, but he found that the strength of this dark hand was astonishing. No matter how hard he tried to escape, he found that he couldn't move at all. Seeing the white figure getting closer and closer to him, Guan Yi's face showed a trace of fear. Back then, Di Beichun had always been fighting with his uncle. It was only now that he realized how strong this man was. It had only been a short while, but he had already completely crushed him. What do I have to do for you to let me go? Guan Yi looked at Di Beichun nervously. At this moment, his heart was filled with regret. If it wasn't for Yin Xiaoman and by Liu Chuan's instigation, he wouldn't have angered the two of them after the matter was over. Now the grudge was getting bigger and bigger, and in the end, it ended up like this. Di Beichun looked down at Guan Yi condescendingly. Previously, I gave you a way out, but you didn't take it. Now, I can only send you to your death. No, I won't dare to do it again. Please let me go. Guan Yi's face was pale as he begged for mercy. No matter how many cultivation resources you want, I will find a way to gather them for you. As long as you let me go, I beg you. I beg you. Chapter 6591. No matter how Guan Yi begged for mercy, Di Beichun remained unmoved. The moment his voice fell, his sword had already ruthlessly pierced Guan Yi's heart. Seeking his own death, no one can spare him. Leaving this kind of guy alive is tantamount to bringing more danger to the people around him. This kind of thing will not happen again. Brother Yi. Yin Xiaoman's face was pale. Her eyes were filled with horror as she watched Guan Yi lose his life. Her mind was blank. If others died, she didn't care at all, but seeing Guan Yi die with her own eyes, she found it hard to accept. Bang! A terrible force fiercely fell on her body, sending her flying. Bailey Hongzhuang's figure flashed and arrived in front of Yin Xiaoman. Guan Yi is already dead. You can go down and accompany him. Bailey Hongzhuang, let me go, okay? Yin Xiaoman spat out a mouthful of blood, but she didn't care about the injuries on her body. She quickly knelt in front of Bailey Hongzhuang, her hands clinging to the latter's white clothes, her body trembling. I don't dare anymore. I don't dare anymore. Last time, you said the same thing. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes were cold. The grudge between them was originally caused by Yun Xiaoman. Whether it was the conspiracy in the tunnel or the alliance just now, if they hadn't been prepared, they would have lost their lives. This kind of guy, without a doubt, will die. The sword in her hand stabbed down without hesitation. Yun Xiaoman's face also showed a trace of despair. Ding! A throwing knife blocked Bailey Hongzhuang's attack, followed by a roar full of anger. Bailey Hongzhuang, you dare? A clear shadow appeared in front of Yun Xiaoman, blocking Bailey Hongzhuang's sword. Looking up at the man in front of her, Bailey Hongzhuang's phoenix eyes slightly raised. She had never seen this person before, but from the other side's aura, the other side's strength is not ordinary, not a simple person. At this time, the roar continued from behind, but with a trace of concern. Xiaoman, are you okay? Yin Xiaoman originally thought that she was going to die, but she never thought that at this critical moment, someone would actually save her. Suddenly, it was as if she saw a life-saving straw, and her whole person was relieved. She timidly hid behind the green-robed man and turned to look behind her. Her eyes immediately lit up when she saw who it was. Brother Bai, you're here. Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichun turned their eyes. When they saw that it was Bai Luchuan, a strange look appeared in their eyes. Who would have thought that this guy would come at such a good time? If he had been a little late, Yin Xiaoman's little life would have been gone. Bai Luchuan quickly walked to Yin Xiaoman's side. How are you? Yin Xiaoman shook her head with tears in her eyes. Her sobbing appearance made Bai Luchuan's heart soften. They killed Brother Yi. Hearing this, Bai Luchuan's eyes turned slightly, and, as expected, he noticed Guan Yi's corpse not far away. With this look, his pupils instantly dilated. He never thought that he would only go back once, and when he came back, Guan Yi had already lost his life. How dare you? Bai Luchuan angrily rebuked. His face became ferocious because of anger. Do you know that Guan Yi is from Wanbao Pavilion? Kill him, and you'll be hunted down by Wanbao Pavilion. Chapter 6592. At this moment, Bailey Hongzhuang was paying attention to the people beside Bai Luchuan. There were many people around him, but they were clearly not Zhong Yiluan's group. This made her feel a little more at ease. However, this fellow was only participating in the demon-slaying competition, yet he had brought so many people with him. In comparison, when she heard that Bai Qingli had come alone, she understood why Bai Luchuan had always been unable to defeat Bai Qingli. Under the protection of so many people, it would be strange if Bai Luchuan's improvement was faster than Bai Qingli's. Of all the people, the one she feared the most was the azure-robed man in front of her. At this level of cultivation, it was impossible to tell his age from his appearance. The only thing she could be sure of was that this man was older than them, and his strength was extremely extraordinary. Bai Luchuan saw that Bailey Hongzhuang and Yun Che were ignoring him, and his expression turned ugly. He immediately said, "Attack, kill them, and avenge Guan Yi." As soon as he said that, his 20-odd subordinates surrounded Bailey Hongzhuang and Yun Che almost immediately. Today, you won't be able to escape even if you have wings. Looking at the 20-odd people around her, Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes narrowed slightly as a grave expression appeared on her face. Di Beichun's gaze also quietly turned behind. In the current situation, it was clearly impossible to fight head-on. The only way was to leave first. With more than 20 people, even if their strength was outstanding, it was impossible for them to win. Beichun, you're here. When Ziren and the others saw that Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichun had not returned after so long, they all rushed in their direction. With their strength, it should be easy for them to deal with those two fellows. However, since they had not come for so long, it meant that other problems might have occurred. When they arrived, they discovered that Beichun and Yun Che were surrounded by more than 20 people. Not far away was Guan Yi's strength, while Yun Xiaoman was tightly leaning on another person's side. They immediately understood what was going on. I didn't expect their reinforcements to be so fast. A hint of coldness appeared in Bai Li Yanche's eyes. He had never seen this guy before, but he already had a guess in his mind. Bai Luchuan looked at the 5 people who had suddenly appeared in surprise. It was fine if it was Gong Jun, but where did these 4 fellows come from? Brother Bai, they are in cahoots. Yin Xiaoman looked at Bai Luchuan nervously. You must avenge Brother E. None of these fellows are good people. If we let them succeed, who knows how much trouble we will have in the future. Bai Liuchuan's eyes were sinister and vicious as he said with an ashen face, kill them all. TSK, TSK, TSK. The moment he opens his mouth, he wants to kill everyone. This man really knows how to show off. Ziren shook his head and sighed. However, we're not scared. You won't cry until you see the coffin. Bai Luchuan sneered. A mere 7 people actually dare to spout nonsense here. Why don't you think about how to kneel and beg me for mercy later? If you perform well, I might spare your lives. I realize that the people of Xi'an City really like to dream. 1 is like this, 2 are like this. I didn't expect this guy to be like this too. Shangguan Yingying sneered. Kill them. Quickly do it. Boom. Chapter 65-93. Boss, should we think of a way to blast a way out and take the opportunity to escape? Gong Jun stood beside Di Beichun and suggested in a low voice, there are so many of them. We are definitely no match for them. It's never too late for a gentleman to take revenge. There will be plenty of opportunities in the future. Bai Luchuan had already guessed their thoughts when he saw Gong Jun's expression. He immediately said, I want all of them to die here. None of them can escape. Don't worry, young master. None of them will be able to escape. The azure-robed man said. Beichun, this fellow's strength is probably not simple. We have to think a way to leave first, Ziren said in a low voice. Under such circumstances, it would be unwise to fight head-on. Di Beichun nodded. Think of a way to leave first. At that moment, the azure-robed man had already charged towards Di Beichun. He could already tell that he was the strongest among all of them. As long as he could control him, the others would be much easier to deal with. The ferocious fist blasted through the air and headed straight for Di Beichun's face. Di Beichun took a step back and countered with a palm strike. Bang! Di Beichun retreated more than 10 steps as the solemn expression on his handsome face deepened. Upon seeing this scene, the expressions of Bailey Hongzhuang and company changed slightly. They knew Di Beichun's strength very well. As Senior Zhong Li's favorite disciple, his combat strength had always been extraordinary among cultivators of the same level. Ordinary cultivators of the same level were no match for him, but the other party was able to repel him with a single punch. It was enough to show how terrifying his strength was. This person's strength is probably not far from breaking through to the elementary immortal realm. Ling Er's expression was complicated. Even at a certain distance, she could sense the other party's tyrannical aura. Clearly, this man's strength surpassed most of the cultivators participating in the demon slaughter competition. Bailey Hongzhuang's gaze landed on Bai Luchuan. As soon as this person appeared, she had already sensed that his strength was extraordinary. It was likely that this person was specially invited by Bai Luchuan. Yin Xiaoman had already regained her senses after her initial panic. After understanding that her life was no longer in danger, she noticed the azure-robed man and could not help but ask, Brother Bai, who is this man? He seems to be very strong. He's my most capable subordinate. A smug look appeared on Bai Liuchuan's face. His cultivation talent is extremely strong. Back then, I saw that he was in dire straits and was being pursued, so I saved him. After that, he has been protecting my safety. What happened in the tunnel earlier was too strange. I felt that something was wrong, so I called him over. I didn't expect him to come in handy so soon. I see. Bai Luchuan. Bai Luchuan nodded slightly. It's a pity that I was still a step too late. Otherwise, Guani wouldn't have... Brother Bai, this isn't your fault. It's all because of these guys. They are the culprits. Yin Xiaoman's eyes were sinister. Only by killing them can we avenge brother. A hint of coldness appeared in by Liu Chuan's eyes. Don't worry, none of them will be able to escape today. Beichun, you have to be careful. Bailey Hongzhuang noticed the other party's strength and said worriedly. Chapter 6594. What should I do? There are so many of them. I can't hold on for long. A trace of panic appeared on Shangwan Yingying's face. Her cultivation had improved a lot compared to before, but facing the attacks of 3 cultivators at the same time, she really paled in comparison. She had been suppressed all the time. If she wasn't careful, she would make a lot of mistakes, and the other party would seize the opportunity and be in danger. In just a few short moves, she was almost hit in the vitals. If this continued, her good luck wouldn't last long. When Xiren's brows were also tightly knitted together, he also tried to break out of a path, but to no avail. These fellows firmly sealed him off, not giving him the slightest chance to escape. Not to mention Ying, even if all of them continued like this, they could lose their lives at any time. When Bai Lu Chuan saw that everyone was being suppressed and beaten, a trace of pride appeared on his face. At this moment, a cold voice suddenly sounded not far away. After searching for so long, I still haven't met any of you. I didn't expect to see such a scene when I arrived. Hearing this familiar voice, everyone's eyes lit up. They turned around and saw Mo Yunjue, Zhongli Mu, Di Xiaofeng, Bailey Yunyan, Xiao Xuanzi, and Xiao Hua all appear. Bai Lulu also turned his head. The 6 people in front of him were also very unfamiliar. He had never seen them before. Who are these people? Yin Xiaoman looked at the people who suddenly appeared in puzzlement. The other party's words were somewhat inexplicable. She didn't understand whether they were enemies or friends. Bai Lu Chuan didn't understand at first, but when his gaze fell on Di Xiaofeng's face, he quickly glanced at Di Beichen. After noticing the slightly similar expression, he understood. These 2 people were obviously brothers. Since you're already here, don't just stand there and watch. Come and help. When Xiren looked at Mo Yunjue and the other's calm and composed appearance and couldn't help but shout, "Aren't we here now?" Di Xiaofeng chuckled, and his figure flashed into the battle circle. His figure was elegant, and his handsome face had a trace of playfulness. We haven't been apart for long. How did you offend so many people the moment you arrived? Zhongli Mu could not help but sigh. I've been in the demon slaughtering mountain range for a few days, and this is the first time I've seen such a large group. You guys really know how to find trouble. I think I still have to follow you guys. Grandpa said that we shouldn't be afraid of causing trouble, but I haven't caused any trouble yet. I'm really ashamed of myself. Looking at Zhongli Mu's serious expression, the corners of everyone's mouths twitched slightly. Senior Zhongli, are you really not tricking your own grandson? Who would teach someone like that? Bai Liuchuan's expression turned ugly when he saw these people join the battle without any hesitation. He never knew that these guys actually had so many helpers. Back then, it was only a team of 3 people. In the blink of an eye, it had become a team of 13 people. No one knew if there would be more helpers behind them. With this in mind, Bai Luchuan turned somewhat anxious. He said, "Don't show any mercy when you attack. End the battle quickly." Yes. At this moment, Di Beichen was engaged in a fierce battle with a man. The other party's cultivation was slightly higher than his, and his combat power was also very strong. Chapter 6595. Every move of the man was filled with ferocity. There was no sloppiness, and every move was meant to take one's life. However, Di Beichen wasn't any weaker than others in this area. He had often been on the brink of life and death over the years. If it was a competition of ruthlessness, he wasn't afraid at all. The man clearly didn't expect Di Beichen to be such a ruthless character. He was ruthless enough, and it was common for him to injure the enemy while injuring himself. Ordinary cultivators would easily be frightened by such an aura. However, the man in front of him didn't show any fear. On the contrary, his attacks were abnormally ruthless. That murderous aura was even more terrifying than his. It was like a devil. With a flip of his hand, he could create clouds and rain. With a monstrous, domineering, and arrogant aura, He was like a monarch in the dark night, causing fear in people's hearts. The other party was clearly younger than him, but even he couldn't help but be frightened by such an aura. Boom! The two of them collided once again. Their bodies retreated a few steps, and their expressions became increasingly ruthless. Green lotus fire. The man's hand seals flipped, and vigorous elemental energy swept out, ruthlessly covering Di Beichun. The surrounding temperature seemed to rise at this moment. Raging flames appeared out of thin air, bringing with them an astonishing temperature. Once surrounded by the flames, one would definitely be burned to ashes. Raging dark energy swept out like a giant net in the dark night, enveloping the ball of flames. Crackle! Sparks flew in all directions as the two forces tore at each other. The surrounding aura was extremely oppressive, as if it would explode at any moment. When Bai Luchuan saw that Di Beichun was able to fight with the man in green to such an extent, a look of astonishment appeared in his eyes. He knew very well how strong the man was. Up until now, he had never met anyone who was his match. However, Di Beichun, who he had never taken seriously, was able to fight with him for so long. It was enough to show that his strength couldn't be underestimated. He is indeed a formidable opponent. Bai Luchuan narrowed his eyes, and a murderous aura in his heart grew stronger. This fellow had to be dealt with as soon as possible. Otherwise, he would become a huge problem in the future. At the same time, Bailey Hongzhuang was facing the siege of two cultivators. Bang, bang, bang. The chi forces continued to collide, erupting into terrifying shockwaves. Even though the two of them wanted to suppress Bailey Hongzhuang, they found that the woman in front of them was too agile. It was too difficult to pin her down. Bailey Hongzhuang narrowed her eyes. Although the two of them were not weak, they were no match for her in a one-on-one fight. But now that the two of them had joined forces, their battle prowess had already suppressed her. She had to think of a way to control one of them, so that she could defeat them one by one. When this thought appeared in her mind, another thought flashed through her mind. In the next moment, the formation stone was thrown out, and a trapping array was formed. The man was rushing forward, but he didn't expect a barrier to block him. Caught off guard, he fell to the ground. An attack smashed onto the barrier, injuring his own hand instead. He quickly stood up and immediately realized that he was trapped in the array. He could only immediately attack the array in an attempt to break out. Bailey Hongzhuang glanced at the man indifferently before attacking the other person. Chapter 65-96. The man naturally knew that once he was trapped, the other person would not be able to hold on for much longer. He immediately attacked the trapping array with all his might. However, the trapping array, which he had thought would be easily broken, unleashed a power beyond his expectations. Even after a few attacks landed on it, the trapping array did not break. A blood-curdling scream sounded. The other man had already fallen under Bailey Hongzhuang's sharp sword. Hearing this, the man could not help but panic. When he turned his head, he realized that the other man had fallen in the blink of an eye. When he looked at Bailey Hongzhuang again, his heart was filled with a sense of dread. This woman, her battle prowess far surpassed cultivators of the same level. When Xiren and the rest were moaning incessantly as they were surrounded by many cultivators. They were clearly not afraid of a one-on-one battle, but they had lost because of their disadvantage in numbers. This made him very unhappy. Suddenly, he saw Bailey Hongzhuang casually throw out a trapping array, trapping the man in it. His eyes immediately lit up. I'm so stupid. Why didn't I think of this move? A smile appeared on Xiren's face. It was indeed difficult to deal with two people at the same time. However, as long as he could trap one of them and get rid of the other, wouldn't it be much easier to deal with this one? In the next moment, when Xiren waved his hand and crushed the array stone in his hand, a trapping array was quietly formed and trapped one of the cultivators within it. When a man had noticed Bailey Hongzhuang's actions, he was feeling very conflicted. He never thought that this move would land on him in the blink of an eye. Let's see how you're going to work together now. When Xiren chuckled, his speed suddenly increased, and he quickly attacked the other cultivator. Bang, bang, bang. Different types of yuan qi collided with each other, and the surrounding trees were all destroyed. The lush green area had long been flattened to the ground. The other cultivator noticed that Xiren's attacks had suddenly become more violent, like a violent storm. Although this man was smiling all the time, his attacks were not careless at all. Every move was aimed at a vital point. Xiren had been cultivating with Senior Yu Hong all this time. Senior Yu Hong was very skilled in swordsmanship. During this period of time, when he was cultivating with his master, his attainments in swordsmanship were also constantly improving. The moment he held the sword in his hand, his entire aura changed. There was no longer the joking and casual attitude he had before. Instead, there was a trace of coldness and sharpness. The sword was like the sharpest weapon in the world. Wherever it passed, everything was cut in half. Bai Luchuan was originally standing by the side, casually watching the battle with a huge disparity in strength. But when he saw the combat strength these fellows unleashed, his expression gradually changed. If Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang were the only ones who performed unusually, that would be fine. However, he discovered that none of these fellows were simple. Needless to say, the black-robed man's temperament was cold like ice. His baleful aura spread out, and every move he made was ruthless. Just a glance from him was enough to cause fear in people's hearts. The battle prowess of the other purple-clothed man and woman could not be underestimated either. After observing them for a short while, he discovered that the strength of these two people was truly astonishing. Chapter 65-97. As for the man and woman who were fooling around, they looked very casual when they were talking, but after they started fighting, it was as if they had changed their appearance. It was impossible to connect them with their previous appearance. The most eye-catching one was a young man who looked the youngest. He was obviously very young, but the combat power he unleashed was the most terrifying. He alone was able to restrain 3 people. Moreover, he was not at a disadvantage under the siege of 3 people. This was simply terrifying. These guys, how can their strength be so terrifying? Bai Luchuan frowned. He had originally treated these guys as grasshoppers that he could casually crush. Now that he saw them with his own eyes, he realized that these guys were not simple. With such powerful strength and appearing in a group, they were probably not rogue cultivators. At the thought of this, Bai Luchuan's expression became very ugly. It was not that he had never seen such a situation before. If the other party was a disciple of a sect who had gone out to train and provoke these guys, the consequences would be extremely troublesome. After seeing Xiren and the others use the trapping array, a trace of worry appeared on Yun Xiaoman's face. Brother Bai, they used this trapping array, so their advantage in numbers is weakening. Upon hearing that, Bai Luchuan snapped out of his thoughts. Indeed, the trapping arrays had trapped the cultivators one after another. Idiot, they can use trapping arrays. Can't you use them? As Bai Luchuan's voice fell, a portion of the cultivators also used trapping arrays, trapping Xiao Xuanzi and the others in it. However, there was still a portion of the cultivators whose faces were full of hesitation. Array stones were also very expensive. If they were not array masters, they would have to spend a lot of money to buy an array stone. At this moment, using it to deal with these guys was really not worth it. Feel free to use it. I'll compensate you later. Bai Luchuan noticed this scene and shouted, "As long as you kill these guys, I'll reward you well." As soon as these words were said, all the cultivators' eyes lit up. In an instant, trapping arrays appeared one after another, flickering with different attribute lights, illuminating the world even more brilliantly. Bailey Hongzhuang's attack landed on the trapping array. With a slight cracking sound, a crack appeared on the barrier. With her second attack, the trapping array immediately collapsed. Xiren and the others were not slow either. On the other side, when everyone saw that Bailey Hongzhuang and the others had only used 2 moves to break the trapping array, their expressions became even more complicated. Because their 2 moves could not break the trapping array in front of them at all. What was going on? Everyone was at a loss. Was it that their combat strength was inferior, or was the other party's trapping array? After Shangguan Ying cast a trap array, she was surprised to find that this trap array lasted for a shorter time than the one when Xiren had cast. Her expression immediately became solemn. I'm afraid this man's strength is stronger than the others. The speed at which he broke through the trapping array is faster than the others. Seeing Shangguan Ying's expression as if she was facing a great enemy, when Xiren couldn't help but chuckle. Don't be nervous, it's not like that. Chapter 6598. When Xiren looked at Shangguan Ying in embarrassment, but the smile on his face remained bright. Shangguan Ying, who was originally confused, immediately understood when she heard this. She couldn't help but roll her eyes. Didn't you say that your trapping array is about the same as Beichen's? There's not much difference in the first place. It's just that there's a slight difference in time. When Xiren's face was calm. Isn't the strength of this trapping array dependent on the strength it withstands and the time it is trapped? Your trapping array is much weaker than the one created by Beichen. Shangguan Ying had also learned how to create trapping arrays, so she naturally understood the difference. As the saying goes, a slight mistake can lead to a huge error. Although it was only a moment, this short period of time could sometimes affect the outcome. Xiren smiled faintly. Beichen's research in this area is deeper than mine. I'll study it for a while more, and I'll probably catch up. I hope so. Shangguan Ying had a look of disbelief, but there was still a hint of a smile in the depths of her eyes. She understood in her heart that when Xiren had already made great progress compared to before. Moreover, she had seen how hard he had worked. Naturally, she was clear about it. As trapping arrays were activated one after another, Bai Luchuan didn't care at first. With the wealth of these fellows, it was impossible for there to be too many trapping arrays. Even if both sides stalled for more time, the final outcome couldn't be changed. The only pity was that it was a pity for these array stones. If they could get rid of these fellows earlier, then the array stones would be theirs. Such a huge commotion attracted many cultivators. Everyone was waiting to see the final outcome. Later, when they saw that Di Beiqian and company had not returned for a long time, Bali Yinshe and company had also disappeared, they were somewhat curious. When they heard the commotion not far away, some people became curious and ran over to take a look. Isn't it just a trapping array? Let's see how many they have. Bai Luchuan threw the array stones on him to the other cultivators. In terms of foundation, he wasn't afraid of these fellows at all. When the onlookers arrived, they heard Bai Luchuan's words. Immediately, their expressions turned very interesting. Ignoring everything else, I think Bai Luchuan will definitely lose in terms of the number of trapping arrays. When Gongjun was doing business, he had a lot of array stones. Although he bought a lot of them, from the looks of it, he probably still has a lot on him. No matter how rich Bai Luchuan is, he can't compare to a shop owner. This isn't a battle. This is a competition of who has more money. Everyone was secretly speechless. Fights between cultivators were the most common thing on a daily basis, but this was the first time they had seen such a way of fighting in their lives. It was really too unbelievable. When Bai Luchuan heard everyone's conversation, he couldn't help but be taken aback. His gaze landed on Gong Jun, who had been hiding, and he suddenly understood. Xiaoman, they said Gong Jun is doing business here? Hearing this, Yin Xiaoman nodded and immediately told her about Gong Jun's business. As she said more and more, Bai Luchuan's face turned darker and darker. If he had known earlier, why would he have let everyone compete like this? Wasn't it obvious that he couldn't win? Chapter 6599. Yin Xiaoman didn't notice Bai Luchuan's ugly expression. She only spoke her mind. Upon hearing this, Bai Luchuan's expression turned slightly better. His gaze landed on Gong Jun. To him, wasting some cultivation resources was nothing. Obtaining points was the most important thing. Are you saying that everyone has been using points to buy cultivation resources from Gong Jun? Yin Xiaoman nodded. That's right. Gong Jun's business has been booming these days. Many cultivators have bought things from him. Although the number of points isn't clear, it must be shocking. That's good. Bai Luchuan's face slowly curled into a smile. He didn't expect to receive such a big gift today. Due to the tunnel incident, many of their cultivators had died. As a result, Their points had been affected. He was thinking about how to make up for this gap. From the looks of it, with Gong Jun and company's points, all of this could be made up for. In the next instant, Bai Luchuan couldn't help but move. He charged straight at Gong Jun. The others were already restrained. Gong Jun was undoubtedly the weakest. As long as he took the opportunity to capture Gong Jun, these fellows would definitely be affected. No one expected Bai Luchuan, who had been watching the show from the side, to suddenly make a move. They also didn't expect him to charge straight at Gong Jun. When Gong Jun noticed Bai Luchuan's actions, he panicked and hurriedly dodged to the side. At that moment, Di Baichen was in full swing with the azure-clothed man. Both of them were using all their skills. Perhaps it had been a long time since they had seen an evenly matched opponent. The two of them were sweating profusely as they fought, understanding their differences. Boss. After exchanging blows with Bai Luchuan, Gong Jun understood that his combat strength was inferior to this fellow's. Although Bai Luchuan was also a hedonistic son, his strength was not simple. If it wasn't for Bai Qingli suppressing him, his reputation would definitely be much louder than it was now. Now that he had made a move against Gong Jun, the latter was naturally no match for him. Hearing Gong Jun's exclamation, Di Baichen also noticed the situation behind him. He immediately wanted to shake off the person who was fighting with him. However, the azure-clothed man clearly knew what Di Baichen was thinking. His attacks became even more intense, forcing Di Baichen to fight him without being distracted. A smug look appeared in Bai Luchuan's eyes. After a few feints, he directly attacked Gong Jun's vital gate. Gong Jun's figure kept retreating. That terrifying power kept getting closer and closer, and his heart became even more flustered. Just as Bai Luchuan's attack was about to land on Gong Jun, a hand suddenly stopped the attack. Bai Luchuan looked up and realized that the black-robed man had unknowingly appeared in front of him. The man's opponent had already been trapped by both the trapping formation and the illusory formation. It was obvious that he would not be able to break free for a while. "You're courting death," Bai Luchuan roared. Mo Yunjue's voice slowly sounded, but it was directed at Di Baichen. "Don't worry, leave this to me." When Di Baichen heard this voice, he immediately felt relieved. He knew Mo Yunjue's strength very well. As Senior Meng's favorite student, his strength had advanced by leaps and bounds in the past year, astonishing everyone. Chapter 6600. Bai Luchuan looked at Mo Yunjue with a hint of fear in his eyes. Previously, he had already discovered that Mo Yunjue's strength was not simple. His lightning attribute power was superb. Not only that, but he was also somewhat different from the others. This was because his moves were fatal. Although the others' attacks were also aimed at the famous sex, Mo Yunjue's moves were the true killing moves. He had seen such a situation before. It was like an assassin's organization. The people inside often didn't make a move, but once they made a move, they would definitely take someone's life. If he wasn't wrong, this black-clothed man should be from this sect. Mo Yunjue's gaze landed on Bai Luchuan. He had always been a man of few words, and there was no need to say much during a battle. While Bai Luchuan was still thinking, Mo Yunjue's attack came crashing down. With a wave of his hand, heavenly thunder immediately resounded. With a raise of his hand, bolts of violent lightning struck towards Bai Luchuan. Amidst the lightning that filled the sky, the unsmiling Mo Yunjue was like a god of lightning. His aura was awe-inspiring, causing one to gasp in amazement. When facing Bai Luchuan, Mo Yunjue did not underestimate him at all. His master had taught him earlier that when he was in the lower planes, he might encounter many hedonistic sons who were not strong, but had many people protecting them. However, it was different in the mortal realm. Hedonistic sons still existed, but these hedonistic sons had extraordinary strength and could not be underestimated. This was because a hedonistic son with no ability would find it difficult to survive in this place. When Bai Luchuan saw Mo Yunjue use such a ruthless move, a look of astonishment appeared on his face. However, his reaction speed was extremely fast. His body nimbly dodged the lightning. At the same time, He waved his hands, and an earth wall suddenly formed. He raised his right hand slightly, and the earth wall leaped into the air, blocking the lightning. In the next moment, his origin power surged again, and the flat ground suddenly turned into waves, rolling towards Mo Yunjue. Mo Yunjue's eyes narrowed slightly. Bai Liuchuan's understanding of the earth element was extremely deep. He took 2 steps back and was about to block the earth wall when the solid ground beneath his feet suddenly turned into a swamp. The quagmire controlled his body, and the earth wave came at him at an even faster speed. Die! A smug look appeared in Bai Liuchuan's eyes. These damn fellows had always looked down on him. He wanted to let them know his strength. When Bailey Hongzhuang saw that Mo Yunjue was in a precarious situation, she quickly rushed over. Just as she arrived, a violent bolt of lightning appeared in the man's hand. The bright light was dazzling in this part of the world. Accompanied by the unique sizzling sound of thunder, it was filled with an extremely terrifying power. He pressed his hands together slightly, and the lightning gradually retracted. However, the sound that came out was even more shocking. Boom! Mo Yunjue's movements were extremely fast. The lightning in his hand met the incoming earth wave. Just as he was about to attack, Bailey Hongzhuang had already stretched out her hand. Mo Yunjue held a soft and boneless hand. A force attacked him, and he escaped from the quagmire at lightning speed. An earth-shattering sound was heard. Everyone felt the ground beneath their feet tremble for an instant, and a terrifying wave of air swept out. The earth wave blotted out the sky, and lightning flashed in the sky. Chapter 6601. A hint of fear appeared in Bai Liuchuan's eyes when he saw the terrifying lightning flash. The lightning attribute had always been the most destructive among the various attributes. Mo Yunjue's actions just now were filled with clues. At a glance, he could tell that it wasn't simple. He naturally couldn't take the risk. Rumble. A deafening sound constantly resounded as layers of earth exploded. Sand flew in the air, stirring up a huge cloud of dust. Even though Bai Liuchuan had retreated immediately, he couldn't help but be affected by the force. The terrifying blast sent his body flying 100 meters away. This guy's strength is actually so strong. Bai Liuchuan frowned slightly. He had never taken it to heart when Guan Yi had told him that Di Beichen's strength wasn't simple. From his point of view, the reason why Guan Yi had lost so miserably to the two of them was because of Bailey Hongzhuang's poison. And now, after understanding the strength of these people, he understood that their strength wasn't simple. Clearly, the other party had fewer people than them, but they couldn't subdue them. This proved that every one of them had the strength to fight above their level. From his point of view, this was impossible, but all of this had happened. It was unbelievable. At that moment, Bai Liuchuan couldn't help but feel apprehensive. For 1 or 2 cultivators to be so outstanding, it could be said that they were talented. However, for everyone in the team to be so impressive, it definitely wasn't something that could be explained by talent. This proved that this group of people definitely had a very powerful faction behind them. Under the nurturing of this faction, their strength had grown to such an extent. His gaze shifted slightly as he looked at the azure-robed man. He saw that he was still fighting with Di Beichen. He knew the azure-robed man's strength too well. Up to now, he had never met anyone who was his match. However, Di Beichen had never been at a disadvantage from beginning to end. On the contrary, from the azure-robed man's expression, he knew that Di Beichen was a truly formidable opponent. He knew that the azure-robed man still had a killer move and hadn't used his full strength. However, Di Beichen didn't look simple either. Perhaps he hadn't used his true strength. If that was the case, it might not be a good thing to continue fighting. Hongzhuang, thank you. Mo Yunjue looked at Bailey Hongzhuang with a smile, his icy face melting like snow. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. If you really want to thank someone, I should be the one thanking you. Just as the two of them were about to continue attacking, Bai Liuchuan's voice suddenly sounded. Let's go. This sudden decision was beyond everyone's expectations. Even the green-robed man and the others doubted if they had heard wrongly. Why did they suddenly stop? However, Bai Liuchuan didn't explain. After making his decision, he left. Seeing this, the other cultivators no longer had the intention to fight and followed suit. Big brother Bai? Big brother Bai, wait for me. Yun Xiao Man quickly chased after him, her face full of confusion. It wasn't just them. Bailey Hongzhuang and company also looked at by Liu Chuan's departing back in surprise. What was wrong with this fellow all of a sudden? Everyone looked at each other and did not continue to attack. Chapter 6602. What happened to Bai Lu Chuan all of a sudden? Why would he suddenly stop at such a time? It doesn't match his style at all. I don't know. He stopped for no reason. Could it be that the black-clothed man seriously injured him just now? It doesn't seem like it on the surface, but the truth is unknown. Everyone sighed with emotion. Only then did they disperse. They hoped that this battle would be a fight to the death. Whether it was Di Beichen's group or by Liu Chuan's group, they were all powerful opponents to obtain the top 10. It would be best if both sides were injured. This way, their chances of obtaining the top 10 would be much higher. However, since both sides had stopped, their hopes naturally couldn't be fulfilled. When Xiren's eyes revealed a trace of doubt. Why did this guy leave? I'm still in high spirits. Bailey Hongzhuang's phoenix eyes narrowed. Her eyes flashed with wisdom. This guy probably didn't expect Yinju's strength to be so strong. He judged the situation and decided to stop. Bai Lu Chuan was a narrow-minded person, but he wasn't stupid either. He understood that if they didn't immediately gain the upper hand in such a situation, the situation would only get worse and not better. He knows how to judge the situation. He does have some ability. Di Beichen spoke slowly. He also agreed with Hong Zhuang's point of view. Other than this, there was no other reason. It's a pity that Yun Xiao Man is still alive. Bailey Hong Zhuang's eyes gradually sharpened. Although Yun Xiao Man wasn't strong, she was a person who was good at stirring up trouble. From Guan Yu's previous attitude, she could already see that if it wasn't for Yun Xiaoman's incitement, Guan Yu wouldn't have done such a thing. In short, leaving Yun Xiaoman alive was a problem. Hong Zhuang, if you want to take her life, it's only a matter of time. Shangguan Yingying walked over. I think this guy looks like he's going to die young. Bailey Hong Zhuang, who was originally a little gloomy, couldn't help but chuckle after hearing this. Yingying, when did you learn how to read people's faces? Haha, I just happened to learn about it. At this moment, Bailey Hongzhuang noticed that Bailey Yunyin and Little Blossom were injured. She quickly walked over and asked, "How are your injuries?" "I'm fine." Bailey Yunyin shook her head. "It's just a small injury. It won't affect me." Bailey Hongzhuang examined him carefully and was relieved when she found that his injuries were not serious. Previously, it was 2 against 1 after all. Even though they had cultivated with their masters for so long and their strength had improved tremendously, cultivators who could ascend to Cloud City must have had their own fortuitous encounters, and their trump cards were all extremely powerful. Therefore, even if everyone managed to withstand the attacks, it was inevitable that they would be injured. Little Blossom also took a medicinal pill. For them, as long as it wasn't a fatal injury, it wouldn't take long for them to recover. "Beichen, what do we do now?" Xiren raised his eyes and looked at Di Beichen. He noticed that Bai Lu Chuan was heading in the direction where they had previously hunted demons. If they were to go there again, they would have to be on guard against the other party's actions at all times. If the other party took the opportunity to launch a sneak attack while they were fighting the demons, it would be really troublesome. Chapter 6603. Another place? Hearing this, everyone was a little surprised. Beichen, could it be that you know a lot about the Demon Slaughter Mountain range? At this time, Zhong Limu also came over. We also bought the map of the Demon Slaughter Mountain range and the so-called strategy to get points. But after coming here, we found that the situation didn't match at all. It was simply useless. Isn't that so? I believed it first, but I heard that this thing is a version from several years ago. Not only have the number and species of monsters changed a lot, even the terrain is not the same. Xiren couldn't help but complain. He knew that the price of these things couldn't be so cheap. Now it seemed that this was the so-called cheap things are not good. I have a real introduction to the strategy in my hands. Di Beichen smiled faintly. Gongjun's friend was obviously not simple. He could even get such a thing. He must have been to the Demon Slaughter Mountain range in person. He didn't know how the other party did it. He could even find some secret places. However, in the immortal region, there were countless talented people. Everyone had their own methods. Really? Xiren said, in surprise. Di Beichun just glanced at him. Xiren said, well, you don't need to lie at all. Let me introduce you. This is my friend, Gong Jun. Di Beichun walked to Gong Jun's side and introduced him to everyone. He is the shopkeeper of the Immortal Treasure Pavilion. You should know him a little. We know. Since we fought together, we are good friends. Your friends are our friends, Yi Zichen said. Everyone smiled and welcomed Gong Jun's addition. Since this person could become Di Beichun's friend, he must be very good. Let me introduce you. This is my big brother, Di Xiaofeng. His wife is Bailey Yunyan. As Di Beichun introduced everyone, Gong Jun quickly remembered everyone's names. His chubby face was full of smiles. Hello, I'm a boss's follower. If there is anything you need me to do in the future, I will not hesitate to go through water and tread on fire. After hearing Gong Jun's self-introduction, everyone was stunned at first, then they all laughed. This guy's personality was really interesting. Let's go ahead and rest for a while. After we recover, we will go to the next location. After Di Beichun identified the direction, he led everyone forward. At the same time, everyone in by Liu Chuan's team kept asking questions. Master Bai, why do we suddenly stop? Yin Xiaoman was also a little confused. Brother, brother died. How could you let them leave just like that? Hearing this, Bai Liu Chuan's voice was filled with anger. If it wasn't because you weren't strong enough, why would I do this? How many people do they have in total? We have twice as many people as them, but we are the ones who have suffered more losses. If this continues, I am afraid that all of you will die there. When these words came out, everyone's heart trembled. In fact, they also understood that Bai Liu Chuan was telling the truth. Facing such a group of people, they didn't even have the thought of fighting. Because these guys were too strong, it made them feel very frustrated. Chapter 6604. When Yin Xiaoman saw Bai Liu Chuan's anger, her eyes instantly turned red. She said timidly, Brother Bai. When Bai Liu Chuan turned his head and saw Yin Xiaoman in such a state, the anger in his heart immediately reduced by half. His voice also became gentler. Xiaoman, don't be anxious. We will definitely avenge Guan Yi, but the current situation isn't suitable. It won't be too late for us to take action when there's a better opportunity. Hearing this, Yin Xiaoman nodded. There was still a trace of nervousness between her brows. I'll listen to Brother Bai. A smile appeared on Bai Liu Chuan's lips, and his mood improved. Jingsong, what do you think of Di Beichun's strength? His gaze slowly turned to the azure-robed man beside him. Bai Liu Chuan's gaze also became complicated. Young Master Bai, Jiang Jingsong cupped his hands. His handsome face was filled with seriousness. Di Beichun is very strong. He's a formidable opponent. Although I didn't use all my skills, according to my observation, Di Beichun also didn't use his final move. Bai Liu Chuan nodded. He had also noticed this point. He said, if we were to fight to the death, are you confident? Jiang Jingsong fell into silence. After pondering for a long time, he said, not necessarily. The moment he said that, Bai Liu Chuan's expression changed. He knew Jiang Jingsong's true strength very well. Other than Bai Qingli, no one in the younger generation could block his ultimate move. However, he actually said that he didn't have enough confidence to deal with Di Beichun. It was enough to show that this man was stronger than he had imagined. I really didn't expect this fellow to be so strong. Bai Liu Chuan narrowed his eyes. From the looks of it, we have to take the long view. We can't act rashly. At the moment, the most important thing for him was the ranking in the demon-slaying competition. Although it was a pity that Guan Yi died, he was dead. A dead person no longer had any value. If his opponent could be easily dealt with, he naturally didn't mind avenging Guan Yi. However, it wasn't worth it if he had to hurt himself. After Bailey Hongzhuang and company found a quiet place, they sat down to recover their essence energy. They weren't sure if Bai Liu Chuan had other ideas. Only by adjusting their condition to the end could they best deal with danger. Bailey Yinyan and the others who were injured stayed at the side to recuperate. Di Xiaofeng wasn't injured, so he looked at Di Beichun curiously. Where do you want to bring us to later? Here. Di Beichen pointed at a place on the book and handed it to Di Xiaofeng. The latter took a look at it and saw the introduction on it. Suddenly, a trace of surprise appeared between his brows. There's actually such a place? This place is very interesting. However, the strength of the monsters that appear is definitely not to be underestimated. If we go there, we must be extremely careful, Di Beichen said after some thought. Bailey Hongzhuang listened to the conversation between the two and immediately had a guess. She smiled tenderly and said, "Are you talking about the changing world of monsters?" "You guessed it." Di Xiaofeng smiled. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. "When I saw this place in the book, I found it very interesting. I felt that if I had the chance, I would definitely go and take a look." Chapter 6605. In comparison, although the place they were at before had killed a lot of monsters, the points weren't high. Not only that, if they weren't careful, they would be ambushed by other monsters. Overall, it wasn't a very good place. What's more, they had to deal with other cultivators at any time. Di Beichen's group was originally fine, but trouble came knocking on their door. It said that there will only be one monster in each area. The whole place is like a maze. Di Xiaofeng raised his eyebrows. "I didn't expect the demon-slaughtering mountain range to have such a magical place. It's really interesting." Ziren also came over. After hearing Di Xiaofeng's introduction, he was the first to agree. "Such an interesting place. We must go and broaden our horizons. This place is very dangerous. If we encounter a monster that's too strong, we might lose our lives." Di Beichen said slowly. Ziren waved his hand. "Don't scare me. Haven't we encountered a lot of things like this? Master said that I lack the courage to fight with my life on the line. This kind of environment is quite suitable for me." Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang's eyebrows turned slightly, and she looked at Wen Ran with some surprise. When he said this, his face was unprecedentedly serious. It could be seen that he remembered everything that Yu Hong had said. After a short rest for half an hour, everyone set off for their destination. "This place is still a distance away from where we are. We should be able to arrive tomorrow." Di Beichen looked at the map in his hand and judged. Everyone nodded. The two places were definitely not close. It would be good if they could arrive in one day. However, the entire demon slaughtering competition only lasted for a month. Every day was extremely precious. As she walked, a thought suddenly appeared in Bailey Hongzhuang's mind. "Beichen, we haven't seen Bai Qingli. Do you think he's there?" Di Beichen's eyes narrowed slightly. A trace of wisdom appeared in his deep eyes. "He's there. Bai Qingli has always been a lone wolf. Furthermore, he has taken first place in the past few demon slaughtering competitions, so his points are very high. In other places, even if he was strong, it was impossible for Bai Luchuan to lose to him in points with so many people helping him. Therefore, I'm afraid there's no other place apart from this place." Mo Yunjue's magnetic and cold voice rang out. "If that's the case, if we stay here until the end of the competition, we should have accumulated quite a lot of points." "That makes sense." Ziren's eyes lit up. "I hope Bai Luchuan doesn't appear again. It's too troublesome." "Bai Luchuan might think so too," Shangwan Yingying said with a smile. The night passed, and the next day, everyone finally arrived at their destination. Ziren looked at the towering mountain in front of him, his eyes filled with doubt. "Beichen, are you sure this is the place?" "Not bad, this is the place." Di Beichen put away the book, and a satisfied smile appeared on his handsome face. Bailey Yunyan was curious. "This is only a mountain. How can it be demons? Could these demons be on the mountain?" At this moment, Di Xiaofeng's gaze landed on an inconspicuous small cave in the distance. Could it be that the mystery is in this cave? Di Beichen smiled faintly. "That's right. It's over there." Chapter 6606. After everyone entered the cave, they suddenly noticed that there were many passages in front of them. It was obvious that these different passages led to different places. "Wow, there's so many passages right after we entered. It's too hard to choose," Ziren said in surprise. Bali Yin Che chuckled. "This passage is not like the inheritances we encountered before, where we would lose our lives if we took the wrong path. Since this is a maze, there must be many intersections. However, I believe that many of the passages will intersect. Di Xiaofeng nodded. That's right. This place is a large-scale maze. Every path we take may lead to different demons with different strengths. Thinking about it carefully, this is indeed a good place to train. Training in other places would definitely not be as good as here. Let's go in separately. Master told us to train separately. It's already against the rules for so many of us to gather together. Shangwan Ying said. Then we'll still be in a group of two? Xiao Xuanzi asked. At this moment, Zhong Limu shook his head. There's so many passages here. It's enough for each of us to take one. Since we're out to train, we'll help each other. There will always be a thought in our hearts, so we won't try our best. This way, we won't be able to achieve the effect that Master said. I think it's better for us to go separately. Hearing this, everyone looked at each other. In terms of courage, Zhongli Mu was definitely the first. Zhongli, if Senior were here to hear this, he would definitely be very happy. Zhongli Mu scratched his head and smiled. If Grandpa were here, he would definitely say that my progress is too slow. I want to increase my cultivation as soon as possible and break through to the elementary immortal realm. This way, when I go back to see Grandpa, he will be pleased. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others all showed a kind smile. Zhongli Mu was different from them. He only wanted to cultivate well and live up to Senior Zhong Li's expectations. Other than that, he had no other thoughts. At this moment, Xiren suddenly sighed. I'm thinking of finding a wife for Zhong Li as soon as possible. This way, he won't urge us to go on a life and death adventure every day. Uffed, Shangwan Ying couldn't help but laugh. You really know how to come up with a dirty trick. I'm telling the truth. Xiren had a serious look on his face. When that time comes, we won't even need to stop them. Someone will do it for us. All right, since everyone is decided, let's go in. Bailey Hongzhuang stopped everyone from fooling around. Bai Qingli has been training here alone for the past few years, so we naturally have nothing to be afraid of. As soon as he said this, everyone's expression turned serious. Along the way, they had their own pride. Since others could do it, they believed that they could do it as well. That's great. Let's see who gets more points. Di Xiaofeng's playful gaze swept across everyone. How's the competition? All right, no problem. I'm afraid you won't compete. Everyone nodded in agreement and immediately stepped forward to enter the passage. However, at this moment, Gong Jun's voice slowly rang out. Boss, what should I do? Chapter 6607. Why don't you come with me? Di Baichen asked. Since Gong Jun had come here with them, there was nowhere else for him to go. It was too dangerous to be alone. At least it was much safer to be with him. Gong Jun, why don't you go with Di Baichen? Bailey Hongzhuang also said, actually, your cultivation isn't weak. It's just that you don't have many opportunities to fight normally. If you can find an opportunity to gain experience, it wouldn't be bad. She had already noticed Gong Jun's situation when she was fighting with Bai Luchuan and the others. Not to mention anything else, the fact that he was able to dodge nimbly under the other party's probing attacks without being injured already proved his talent and ability in this area. As long as he practiced more, this area wouldn't become his shortcoming. Gong Jun pondered for a moment and suddenly said, Boss, can you let me take a look at that booklet? Why not? Di Baichen handed the booklet to Gong Jun. This is yours, but what do you want to see? Gong Jun chuckled. Before I participated in the competition, that old fellow said that there was a strategy for me recorded in here. He said that I could pass with my strength. Let me see if there is one here. If there is, then there's no need to go through so much trouble. Hearing this, everyone's eyes widened as a look of surprise appeared on their faces. There's actually someone so powerful? Xiren was stunned. It's wonderful to have such a friend. Gong Jun flipped through the booklet for a moment before his eyes lit up. He said, this old fellow really didn't disappoint me. He actually recorded it. Really? Di Baichen couldn't help but be stunned. He looked at the contents of the booklet that Gong Jun was reading. As expected, it marked the path that he could take. Gong Jun nodded his head. This guy does have a conscience. Boss, I'll take this path. Are you sure? Di Baichen was a little worried. No one can be sure of the monsters that appear in this maze. Although your friend is very capable, if something goes wrong, don't worry, this guy won't trick me. Gong Jun's face was full of confidence. I'm a man after all. Although I'm not as strong as everyone else, I should really train myself. Otherwise, with my appearance, won't I always trouble you when I follow boss around in the future? Gong Jun, don't try to show off if you can't do it. Bailey Hongzhuang asked with concern. If there is any danger, it will be a matter of life and death. Madam, I know what to do. Seeing that Gong Jun had already made up his mind, no one tried to persuade him any further. Everyone had their own thoughts, and it was good that Gong Jun was willing to cultivate properly. Let's go. In the next instant, everyone chose a path and walked in without hesitation. Xiaohei sat on Bailey Hongzhuang's shoulder. She wanted to simply choose another path and walk on her own, but she had been by her master's side for so many years that she was used to it. She really didn't want to leave. The inside of the path was pitch black, and rich dark energy was constantly spreading. Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curled up slightly. This environment was really suitable for her to cultivate. After hunting monsters, even if she cultivated here, the effect would be much better than outside. In the upper realm, there were fewer dark energy places, but in the immortal region, there were more of them. Chapter 6608. The mountain walls were slightly damp and without any light. The path was very dark and gloomy. It was clearly not a very long path, but in this extremely dark environment, it seemed especially long. Bailey Hongzhuang slowly walked forward. She had already understood the situation here from book. Every path would lead to demons. However, these demons were usually one at a time. Once they were dealt with, they would be able to move on. If they lost, they could only become food in the demons' stomachs. In the beginning, if they were quick enough, they would be able to escape through this path. However, after going through a series of twists and turns, it would be very difficult to return. Therefore, charging forward bravely was the best way to go about it. Master, do you think that this place is really naturally formed? Xiaohei was in disbelief. This is too strange. This place sounded like a training ground specially prepared for cultivators. However, these were all demons and did not seem to have been prepared by the people of Cloud Division City. Besides, the demons did not only appear in this place. Many cities had the same situation. This was not something that the average person could do. Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows. I don't know about the rest, but this place must have been deliberately set up by someone. Master, do you think so too? Demons would not appear here for no reason. However, I don't know what the person who set up this place is trying to do. Perhaps they just want to nurture some cultivators? The reason why Bai Qingli's power had been able to rise so quickly must have something to do with this place. Just as the two of them were conversing, a beast's roar was heard from the front. This roar could be said to be deafening. Even though they were quite far away, they could feel a gust of wind blowing past. However, upon hearing this sound, Bailey Hongzhuang's expression suddenly changed. Master, what's wrong? I feel that this sound is rather familiar. Bailey Hongzhuang mumbled to herself. Familiar? Xiaohei was puzzled. Could it be that you've heard it when you were killing those demons? But I don't feel that the roars of those demons we've encountered before were so shocking. Bailey Hongzhuang shook her head slightly. It's not those monsters. I've heard this kind of beast roar somewhere else. That's even more impossible. Xiaohei shook her head. We've never seen these monsters anywhere else. Bailey Hongzhuang was also secretly surprised, but this feeling was very strong. She quickened her pace and quickly walked forward. She wanted to see what kind of monster this was. As her line of sight gradually widened, they could vaguely see a trace of light. Bailey Hongzhuang was also able to clearly see the appearance of the demonic beast in the distance. Isn't that the giant centipede? Xiaohei was dumbfounded when she saw the monster's appearance. As expected, Bailey Hongzhuang sighed inwardly. The monster in front of them was the giant centipede they had seen when they were training in the desert world. The only difference was that the centipede in front of them was much larger than the one they had seen before. Its aura was also much more shocking. In comparison, the giant centipede they had seen before was like a child who had not yet grown up. The one in front of them was a true adult centipede. Chapter 6609. Why has this giant centipede appeared here? Xiaohei was a little confused. They had always thought that the desert world and the oceanic world were just places for them to train, even though everything in those worlds was far too realistic and had caused them to have their suspicions. They had not taken it to heart. Could it be that the other demons have come from that realm as well? Hearing Xiaohei's question, Bailey Hongzhuang's heart was also pondering over this question. The Chaos Ring. How is it related to all of this? The world was so vast, and there were so many realms. However, the Chaos Ring had allowed her to enter this realm. Could this be a coincidence? In a trance, a thought seemed to flash through her mind. However, it flashed through her mind too quickly, and she couldn't catch it all. Without giving her time to think carefully, the centipede roared and swept its tail towards her. Boom! Its long tail swept across the ground, creating a terrifying sound. However, the ground seemed to be made of steel and did not show any signs of damage under such power. Bailey Hongzhuang had already dodged the attack. Once the centipede noticed this, it quickly chased after her. With a long sword in hand, the woman's figure floated gracefully as she stabbed and slashed at the centipede's body, creating a sharp sound. However, she was unable to break through the centipede's defenses. Most importantly, she realized that this centipede's speed was much faster than the one she had encountered in the past. It was clearly a very large body, but its speed and agility had exceeded her expectations. Indeed, this dark environment is more suitable for its survival. Bailey Hongzhuang sighed, and a fierce look appeared in the space between her brows. This was a radiant sun-state centipede, and its powers were not ordinary. However, she was not afraid. Ding, ding, ding. The sound of metal clashing against metal rang out continuously. The centipede was extremely fast, so Bailey Hongzhuang decided not to dodge. She had crossed swords with this centipede many times before, so she knew its weakness very well. When the centipede saw that Bailey Hongzhuang was standing motionless on the spot, its eyes lit up with joy. Then, it quickly charged toward her. Roar! An astonishing roar of a beast suddenly spread out, bringing with it extreme pain. It kept rolling in the cave, and a terrifying power kept sweeping out, scattering the stones. The momentum was astonishing. Bailey Hongzhuang's white robes fluttered in the wind. The sharp sword in her hand had already pierced into the centipede's eye. Seeing the giant centipede struggling, Bailey Hongzhuang quietly watched for a moment before flying out and pulling out the sword. At the same time, she gathered her elemental energy in the long sword, causing the tip of the sword to become even sharper. The strength in her hand increased abruptly, and with a sudden burst of strength, she directly cut open the outer shell of the skull. The centipede also felt the approaching danger and quickly struggled, wanting to throw Bailey Hongzhuang off its head. However, Bailey Hongzhuang stood very steadily. After cutting open the outer shell, her elemental energy surged as she ruthlessly stabbed the sharp sword in. Puchi! A dull sound rang, and the centipede's violent struggle stopped. Its body gradually fell to the ground, and the entire cave quietened down. Bailey Hongzhuang took out the demonic crystal of the centipede. The blood-red, demonic crystal exuded a bewitching luster. She sensed it slightly and found that the energy contained in it was much stronger than that of the centipede she had killed. Chapter 66:10. Upon hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's words, Xiaohei couldn't help but laugh. I reckon that Yin Shay still likes to eat them. It's just that he's already in his human form. If he continues to eat these demon crystals in his current form, the scene would be a little out of place. The image of Yin Shay eating demon crystals flashed across her mind. Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but chuckle. That's true. It's said that these demon crystals can be used to refine elixirs. After the competition is over, I'll go back and try to see if these demon crystals have any effect. Now that I think about it, I'm really envious. Back then, Xiao Bai and I cultivated as if our lives depended on it, but in the end, our cultivation speed couldn't compare to Yin Shay's, who was constantly eating demon crystals. Xiaohei shook her head and sighed. At that time, What they were most envious of was Yin Che's method of cultivation. Wasn't it very enviable that his strength could soar just by eating and eating? In fact, Gong Jun also used this method to increase his cultivation. Bailey Hongzhuang suddenly smiled. But ordinary people don't have that much money to buy treasures to eat. After dealing with the giant centipede, Bailey Hongzhuang looked at the identity card in her hand. As expected, this centipede gave them more points than the monsters they had killed for half a day. If it weren't for the fact that she was experienced in dealing with this kind of centipede and knew where its weakness was, ordinary cultivators would probably have to spend a lot of effort on it. If we speed up and kill monsters here, then our points might really be very high. A glimmer of joy flashed through her pitch-black phoenix eyes. The reward for first place this time was extremely generous. Naturally, they had to give it a try. After resting for a moment, she continued to walk forward. The environment in the maze was very interesting. Only the monsters were relatively spacious, and when they headed to the next place, the path became very narrow. This path is really strange. It's clearly very large, so why is it so small? Xiaohei couldn't help but say as she looked at the pitch-black darkness in front of her. It seems that this path was purposely made. Bailey Hongzhuang smirked. If the cultivator is no match for this monster, he can take the opportunity to run into this passage. With the monster's huge body, it would definitely not be able to barge in. What's more, this cave is very mysterious. No matter how shocking the shockwaves from the battle are, this rock doesn't move at all. It's not affected at all. If it was an ordinary cave, it would have collapsed after their battle, just now. Because of this, she was even more certain that this place was specially set up by someone. When Bailey Hongzhuang was hunting demons, the others were almost in the same situation. However, the demons that everyone encountered were different, and there was a slight difference in strength. Unsurprisingly, these monsters were all at the Radiant Sun realm. The only difference was their strength. 3 days later, Bailey Hongzhuang looked at the monster in front of her with a hint of surprise in her eyes. Isn't this the demonic beast that Master summoned? Xiaohei looked at the huge, sinister-looking demonic beast in front of her. Her eyes were filled with shock. I was wondering why I couldn't find out what species the demonic beast was. It's not from the immortal region, but from another plane. Chapter 66:11. The demon beasts in the desert world are demons, and the demon beasts I summoned are also demons. If there was an ocean here, would the demon beasts from the ocean world also appear here? Bailey Hongzhuang thought to herself. She had always thought that the desert world and the ocean world were not the same plane, but two completely different places. But now, could it be that this was the same place, but the environment was slightly different? As this thought surfaced, Bailey Hongzhuang felt that everything was not so simple. The demon beasts she summoned also came from that plane, so the Chaos Ring was not the key to every world, but only to that plane. When she thought of this, she was even more certain that this might be the truth. Then, what is the relationship between the Chaos Ring and that plane? Now that the immortal region rejects everything that appears in that plane, treating it as an external enemy and desperately trying to get rid of it, then all of this rich, dark energy, could it be that that is a dark attribute world? Then why are they constantly appearing in the immortal region now? Countless thoughts appeared in Bailey Hongzhuang's mind, but she could not answer all of these thoughts. Vaguely, it seemed like something was about to break through the ground, but in the end, only a bud was revealed and then disappeared. This feeling is just like in the upper realm. Dark attribute cultivators have always been rejected, but they kept working hard in order to have their own place of safety in this place. Bailey Hongzhuang muttered to herself. This situation was really quite similar. She felt that her understanding of the Chaos Ring was really too little. This ring was too miraculous. Ever since she had transmigrated, it had been helping her, and it was only now that she realized that all the functions she knew might be just a side function of the Chaos Ring. As for the real function, she might not understand it yet. Master, what's wrong? Xiaohei saw that Bailey Hongzhuang had suddenly stopped saying anything and was standing at the side in a daze, lost in thought, and could not help but ask. Hearing this voice, Bailey Hongzhuang came back to her senses shook her head and said, "Nothing." Xiaohei did not think too deeply about it. She only said with concern, "This fellow's combat power is not simple. Master, you must not be in a daze. Otherwise, you will easily get injured." Bailey Hongzhuang put aside the doubts in her heart and clenched the sharp sword in her hand. Her eyes suddenly sharpened, and she rushed toward the demon. Originally, she had always summoned it for her own use, but she had never really fought with it. She also wanted to know how strong this monster's combat power was. Roar! An earth-shattering roar rang out. Bailey Hongzhuang only felt a gust of wind whistling past, and her footsteps came to a halt. Bailey Hongzhuang paused for a moment, then rushed forward again, the sharp sword in her hand stabbing out rapidly. Ding! Rip! The long sword slashed across the monster's body, leaving a greenish-white mark, but it did not really hurt the monster. Seeing this, Bailey Hongzhuang narrowed her eyes. This guy's skin was stronger than the demons she had killed before. With just this thick layer of skin, it was already very difficult to injure it. Her sword had already contained sword intent, but it still could not break through. The monster looked at Bailey Hongzhuang with disdain, as if mocking her attack for not having any effect. Chapter 66:12. Bailey Hongzhuang took 2 steps back, and the power of darkness instantly surged outwards, following the shadows on the ground and gradually attacking the demon. The demon was very smart as well. It keenly sensed that the power of darkness was in the shadows and immediately increased its speed. In the blink of an eye, the demon had charged in front of Bailey Hongzhuang. It raised its large claws and slammed them down. Bailey Hongzhuang tumbled backwards. Just as the claws were about to crush her, the tip of her sword pointed upwards. Puffed. A soft sound rang out, followed by the furious roar of the demon. Ding! The demon forced the long sword back, and it fell back into Bailey Hongzhuang's hand. I never thought that this fellow's skin would be so rough and thick on the surface, but its palm would have no defense at all. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes flashed with a cold smile as she remarked. Xiaohei stood to one side and watched as the demon grew more and more powerful. However, it was not too worried. Its master's methods have never been simple. During this fight, it had clearly noticed that its master was using this fellow to practice her latest technique. Normally, it would not be easy to find an opponent. Now that she has this demon to practice on, it was undoubtedly the best opportunity. Hence, it was not in a hurry and simply watched from the side. During this fight, Bailey Hongzhuang had discovered that these demons had a rather thorough understanding of the power of darkness. She could also learn a thing or two from this fight. Xiaohei, are you sure you don't want to try? Bailey Hongzhuang's clear eyes darted around as she turned toward Xiaohei. This fellow has always been lazy ever since it had arrived. It would refrain from fighting whenever it could. There's no need, master. You just have to train well. Xiaohei waved her hand as her face was filled with smiles. You're really lazy. Bailey Hongzhuang shook her head. From before to now, this guy's habit of being lazy really hadn't changed at all. As she gradually gained a better understanding of this demon's characteristics, she gradually found its fatal weakness. She immediately moved, and the inner energy within her body instantly erupted. A great killing move was quietly formed. Boom! The monster was suddenly sent flying by Bailey Hongzhuang's attack. A large hole had already appeared in its vital part. It was obviously going to die soon. Bailey Hongzhuang slowly took out the demon crystal and placed it into her chaos ring. She then sat down at the side. After fighting for such a long time, she had exhausted a lot of energy. She needed to rest for a while to recover. While she was resting, she suddenly sensed the fluctuations of a battle in front of her. She could also vaguely hear the sounds of people talking. However, due to the distance, he couldn't hear it clearly. Master, there's someone ahead. Xiaohei ran to the entrance of the cave and leaned against the wall to listen to the sounds on the other side. We've been here for a few days, but we haven't met a single person. Bailey Hongzhuang also had a hint of curiosity in her eyes. From the sound of it, it seems like the two of them are enemies. Even if they couldn't hear it clearly, they could still make some guesses from the speed of their conversation and the fluctuations of their battle. Master, could it be that they're not working together to fight against the demon? Would you talk so much when you're working together with your friends? Bailey Hongzhuang asked in return. Hearing this, Xiao He was stunned. She immediately understood. Understand. However, it's also possible that they're fighting over the demon crystal or points. Chapter 66:13. Anyone who killed a demon beast here would gain a lot of points. If someone happened to pass through the passageway and saw the other party about to defeat the demon beast, it wasn't impossible for them to take the opportunity to snatch the points. Bailey Hongzhuang quickened her pace as she led Xiao He forward. She wondered if one of them would be among them. Not only was this place suitable for cultivators to raise their cultivation level, but it was also suitable for cultivators to earn points. Even if it was filled with danger, there would definitely be many cultivators who came here. As Bailey Hongzhuang approached, she realized that the situation was more exciting than she had imagined. It turned out that a cultivator was facing the siege of 3 cultivators. The demons here had already been killed, but the 3 cultivators were ruthlessly attacking the man. The besieged man was dressed in a light green robe. His figure was elegant, and his strength was extraordinary. He didn't immediately retreat under the siege of the 3. Instead, he was able to persist. It was obvious that his strength wasn't simple. However, as time passed, the man also showed signs of being suppressed. Bailey Hongzhuang sized up the 3 people opposite her. The 3 of them weren't simple either. They were even stronger than Bai Liuchuan's subordinates. Under such circumstances, it wasn't easy for the man to still be able to do so. Master, from the looks of it, they seemed to be seeking revenge. Xiao He sized up the situation in front of her. The 3 of them looked like they wanted to take the life of the light cyan-robed man. Furthermore, the viciousness they revealed wasn't the state of snatching points. That's right. They're seeking revenge, Bailey Hongzhuang said with a faint smile. In this demon-slaying competition, it was very normal for cultivators to die. It wasn't easy to take action normally, but here, they could attack without any scruples. It was undoubtedly the best. Then what should we do? Xiao He was secretly speechless. The other party was in full swing. It didn't seem appropriate for them to just watch, right? Salad, Bailey Hongzhuang said slowly. The sudden appearance of a woman naturally attracted the attention of the 4 people who were fighting. Their expressions immediately became complicated. The 3 cultivators thought that Bailey Hongzhuang was on the side of the light green man. Fear and confusion appeared between their brows. The light cyan man was only worried that she was also one of them. Originally, he was already having a hard time dealing with the attacks of 3 people. If one more person joined in, he was afraid that he would really lose his life here today. In an instant, all 4 of their gazes landed on Bailey Hongzhuang, and the atmosphere became extremely strange. Seeing this, Bailey Hongzhuang said, "I'm just passing by." As soon as she finished speaking, Bailey Hongzhuang took a step forward and slowly walked past the edge. She didn't know how long these people would fight for. She couldn't stay here and waste time because of these guys. Hearing the woman's words, the light cyan-robed man immediately heaved a sigh of relief. As long as the other party wasn't a match for them, then it was a good thing. The other 3 looked at Bailey Hongzhuang suspiciously. This person appeared out of nowhere and was so calm in the face of such a situation. It was really too strange. If it was an ordinary person, they would definitely avoid this situation like the plague. However, she deliberately came here. There must be something wrong with this woman. Just as Bailey Hongzhuang was about to enter the passage, a man's voice suddenly rang out. "Stop her!" Chapter 66:14. Bailey Hongzhuang narrowed her eyes as she stared at the 2 men who had blocked her way. A cold light flashed across her eyes. "I've said it before, I'm just passing by." However, the 2 men chuckled. "It doesn't matter if you're just passing by. Since you've seen what's happening today, consider yourself unlucky. You're really arbitrary. Are you trying to silence me?" Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curled into a cold smile. As expected, one look, and she could tell that these guys were not good people. "That's right, we want to silence you. Who told you to be so unlucky?" The man was very calm. Their actions today were carried out in secret. It was because they knew that this person was here that they had risked their lives to come here. As long as they could kill this person, They would have a meteoric rise in the future. However, there was a prerequisite to this, and that was that they could not be discovered by anyone. Although this woman looked unfamiliar, if she were to expose this matter, the consequences would be unimaginable. The light green man clearly didn't expect things to turn out like this, and he was a little surprised. I saw that the three of you couldn't take him down after so long. Now that I'm here, are you sure you can win? Bailey Hongzhuang's face rippled with a smile like a spring breeze, but her eyes were like 10,000 years of ice and snow. These guys never cared about other people's lives. Even if she wasn't here, as long as these guys found her at the next cave, they would definitely take her life, because they could not let anyone find out about this. Thinking about this, Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but look at the light green man. For something like this to happen, it was obvious that this man's position was not simple. Although she originally wanted to kill Guan, Yi and Yun Xiao Man quietly to prevent the Wan Bao Pavilion from coming back to cause trouble, she didn't care too much about this matter before it was carried out in secret. Although it would be troublesome, it wouldn't be to this extent. The three men in front of her were different. From their expressions, she could tell that this matter could not be spread. Presumably, when they made this decision, they must have thought about it for a long time. As Bailey Hongzhuang's voice fell, the three people's faces changed slightly. This was also what they were worried about. However, when they saw the woman's disdainful look, the anger in their hearts surged. This woman was actually looking down on them? Who do you think you are? How arrogant. The man snorted coldly. Let me get rid of you first. Let's see if you can still be so arrogant. You two stop him. Don't let him escape. I'll deal with this woman first. The other two nodded. All right. In the next moment, the man threw a punch at Bailey Hongzhuang. He understood that any cultivator who appeared here would not be too weak. However, this place was not very far from the entrance. In addition, many people had come here to explore before. Perhaps this woman was lucky and the monsters she passed through were not strong. Or perhaps the monsters in front of him had been taken away by others. A mere woman, even if her strength wasn't bad, was definitely not a match for him. When the light green man saw this scene, he could not help but say, "The person you want to kill is me. It has nothing to do with her." Chapter 66:15. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes narrowed when she saw the man's attack. At the same time, she raised her hand to meet the attack. The man in light green wanted to help Bailey Hongzhuang when he heard the woman's calm voice. Let's deal with your side first. You should have no problems dealing with these two people. Hearing this, the man's eyes flashed with astonishment. Even in a time like this, the woman was not flustered at all. Her calm and indifferent demeanor did not show any signs of nervousness. Instead, it was as if she had seen through everything and exuded a sense of confidence from her very bones. Does she not know that none of these three people's powers are simple? I'm sorry for dragging you into this. The space between the man's brows carried a sense of guilt. Then, a thick murderous light flashed in his eyes. He stared at the two people in front of him with murderous intent. Give me some time. I'll deal with them. Bailey Hongzhuang gently raised the corners of her lips. All right. When the three people saw that the two people before them had formed an alliance in the blink of an eye, the murderous intent in their eyes intensified. Wham! Bailey Hongzhuang and the man's palms collided. When they were about 20 centimeters away, the power in their palms exploded. Light and metal energy clashed, exploding into a dazzling light. However, at almost the instant they exchanged blows, the man's expression suddenly changed. Unlike his previous confidence, there was a hint of shock in his eyes. This was because he had clearly realized that this woman's powers were much more powerful than he had imagined. Thud, thud, thud. The man quickly retreated until his body touched the mountain wall before he stopped. What about me? Didn't you want to silence me? Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curled into a seductive smile. Her cold and distant face instantly turned enchanting like a blooming devil's snare, emitting a deadly charm. However, this mesmerizing smile was like the smile of death in the man's eyes. It sent a chill down his spine and sent a chill down his spine. If he could turn back time, he would never have stopped this woman. Because This woman's powers were enough to crush his existence. At the same time, the light green man unleashed his full strength. Previously, when he was surrounded by 3 people, he had to be careful. At this moment, although there were still 2 people in front of him, the pressure was much less than before. He had implicated this young lady for no reason. If he did not deal with these 2 people as soon as possible and cause the young lady to lose her life, he would not be able to absolve himself from the blame. Bang, bang, bang. The man's attacks were as fast as lightning, and each of his moves was like a thunderbolt. Terrifying power continued to erupt, which was completely different from the previous situation of suppression. It was only at this moment that the other 2 men realized that this was his true strength. Previously, he had been holding back, but when he truly erupted, it was actually so terrifying. Under such circumstances, they could not even pay attention to the battle at the side. This was because they realized that after the other party erupted, even if the 2 of them worked together, they were still being suppressed. Such a situation was truly unimaginable. The terrifying power of lightning exploded, and the entire cave seemed to have turned into a lightning lake. Bolts of lightning struck down continuously with terrifying might. The man seemed to have turned into a god of death at this moment. Even Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but raise her eyebrows at such an attack. This fellow was indeed a formidable opponent. Chapter 66:16. Knowing that the man wouldn't have a problem dealing with the 2 of them, Bailey Hongzhuang was completely relieved. Coincidentally, she felt that she didn't have enough points. Zhong Yiluan's situation was still uncertain, and Bai Luchuan was already a problem. No matter what, she would never let Bai Luchuan become first place. Other than him, there was also Bai Qingli. This fellow was also an idiot. His cousin had been playing tricks behind his back, but he actually didn't know about it. Even though the 3 fellows in front of her had specially come to kill people with their strength, they must have killed quite a number of demons along the way. If she could snatch their points, it would probably be pretty good. In the next moment, Bailey Hongzhuang's attacks became even more vicious. Every move was swift and fierce. Bang! When a man was sent flying by Bailey Hongzhuang again, Bailey Hongzhuang took advantage of him and grabbed his neck with one hand. The man's face stiffened. Feeling the force on his neck, his face turned pale and fearful. "You, don't mess around." Bailey Hongzhuang chuckled. "What do you think counts as messing around? If you kill me, you will definitely pay the price." The man looked at the charming and enchanting face in front of him, but his heart was pounding. This woman was definitely not a kind person. She probably wouldn't show any mercy when she attacked. "I'll pay the price if I kill you." Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows slightly. "Then wouldn't I have to kill you even more? Otherwise, if I let you escape, wouldn't I be in endless trouble in the future?" The man's expression stiffened. From the faint teasing look in the woman's eyes, he knew that this woman was teasing him. He quietly turned his gaze. He originally thought that if the other 2 could defeat each other, they would be able to spare some effort to save him. However, when he turned his gaze, he saw that the other 2 had been completely suppressed. From the looks of it, it was impossible to turn the tables. They were clearly just a little bit away from completing this mission and rising to the top. However, because of a single step, because of a variable, they had ended up in such an outcome. All of this was because of this woman. Just as the man was about to explode with rage, the woman's nonchalant voice sounded. "Give me your points." Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. She glanced at the identity card on the man's waist. As expected, his points were very good. Hearing this, the man really wanted to strangle the woman in front of him. "What? You're not willing?" The man snorted coldly. "Now that things have come to this, the outcome is set. No matter what happens, there won't be any changes. Why should I give you the points?" "That's not necessarily true." Bailey Hongzhuang shook her head. "The outcome hasn't been decided yet." As soon as these words came out, the man was slightly taken aback. Suddenly, a strange light appeared in his eyes. "So, you mean as long as I give you the points, you let me go?" The man looked at Bailey Hongzhuang expectantly. "As long as you agree, not to mention my points, even their points will be given to you." Now, he didn't want any information to be exposed. As long as he could complete this mission, The three of them could escape to a faraway place. If they were in another city, who would be able to implicate them in this matter? As long as they could get everything that they deserved, that would be enough. Chapter 66:17. You've been in this place for so long, yet you're still so naive? Bailey Hongzhuang raised her brows. If it were you, would you let go of someone who had threatened to kill you? The man was stunned. The excitement on his face quickly dissipated and was replaced by anger. So everything you said just now was just a joke? No. Bailey Hongzhuang stretched out her index finger and shook it. Her slender finger was like white tofu, and water could be squeezed out of it at any time. You could choose a different way to die. The man sneered. There's no need. Don't blame me for not reminding you. I have many ways to torture people. If you have to suffer such torture before you die, it won't be an ordinary kind of misery. Bailey Hongzhuang shook her head, a trace of sigh in her eyes. Pitiful, really pitiful. Trying to scare me? That won't work. The man stared coldly at Bailey Hongzhuang. If you want to kill me, then kill me. I won't let you have your way. Since you refuse a toast, only to be forced to drink a forfeit, I'll fulfill your wish. Bailey Hongzhuang took out a pill and stuffed it into the man's mouth. With a little force from her right hand, the pill was swallowed uncontrollably. Even though he was already mentally prepared, the man's expression changed abruptly. He had thought that this woman was just saying it. After all, when faced with a person who was about to die, no one would be willing to waste a pill. But this woman didn't play by the rules at all. What did you feed me? I've always kept my word. Since you want to die in a different way, I'll naturally fulfill your wish. Bailey Hongzhuang released the man and slowly walked to the side. She looked over and saw that the man in light green was about to finish his battle. When the man saw that Bailey Hongzhuang had released him just like that, he was momentarily at a loss. This woman was just too strange. In the next moment, the man charged towards Bailey Hongzhuang again. Even if I'm going to die, I'll drag you down with me. Bailey Hongzhuang stood quietly on the spot. She watched as the man charged towards her, but didn't react. Bang! The man threw a punch at her. Bailey Hongzhuang casually waved her hand, and the wind from her palm sent the man flying. When he landed on the ground again, he spat out a mouthful of blood. It was clear that Bailey Hongzhuang's move was much weaker than before, but the injury it caused to him was the most serious. After a moment, the man realized that he had lost his cultivation. Without Yuan Qi, he was no different from an ordinary person. Bailey Hongzhuang's attack. On the other hand, the two people who were being pressured by the light sign-clothed man also had ugly expressions when they noticed what had happened to this person. One wrong move, and the whole game was lost. In the current situation, it was absolutely impossible for them to kill him. The two of them looked at each other, and without any hesitation, they turned around and ran into the tunnel. The two of them together couldn't even deal with one person. Once that woman joined in, the two of them could only die here. The man in light green robes quickly followed after them when he saw what they were doing. Seeing this, Bailey Hongzhuang prepared to walk to the other side. Master, are we leaving just like that? Xiao He asked in shock.